E quindi iniziamo con Umineko, episode 6, Dawn of the Golden Witch. Good morning. It is at last time for the curtain to rise on Butler Sama's game. Let's observe the light from the opposite side of the chessboard. Can Butler Sama succeed in playing the demanding role of the game master? There is no longer any difficulty level. At this point, these are not hints, but a confession. E vi ricordo, vediamo se riuscite a battermi. Questa è una sfida che io lancio a voi. Riuscite a risolvere Umineko prima di me? Io l'ho risolto durante i titoli di coda di questo episodio. A beautiful glow shone in the skylight over the grand cathedral. The place was somehow different from the way it had been during the witch's trial. The decorations had changed. The several pleasantly sparkling white ribbons were paper thin, but they hung beautifully in the air. Flowers were arranged all over in a way that would make any place look cheerful. It was like how a single drop of impure water could spoil an entire cask of wine. Just the presence of the flowers, the ribbons, and the red carpet that ran down the center of that room made it hard to believe that this was the same place Ushiromi Natsui had been falsely accused of a crime. It had truly become a wedding chapel. Love is generous. Love is merciful. Love does not envy. It does not boast. These words, spoken by two demons who seemed to be in charge of this gathering, were part of a ceremony for making an oath of love before the eyes of God. Of course, in this wedding celebrated by demons, there was no priest in sight. Instead, there stood the witch who controls miracles. In sickness and in health. Yeah, a wife's true job is to be supportive in times of sickness. Isn't that right, Erika? Yes, my master. That looks good on you. What a fitting outfit for the one who has conquered the bridegroom. I am honored, my master. The bride standing on the carpeted path was Furudo Erika. The groom's face couldn't be seen. The bride's outfit was, without a doubt, a pure white wedding dress. The bride's veil represented both the white of God's blessings and the white of demons' cruelty. A great many goat nobles, witches, and demons were gathered for this wedding. If only their heads hadn't been those of goats, it would probably have seemed to be a very refined crowd worthy of this great cathedral. I'd expect no less of you, Ben. Every single thing you come up with is always so screwed up. A wife to support her ailing husband. Isn't that wonderful? It suits you, Erika. And congratulations to you too, Mr. Groom. At that point, Berncastel stared straight into the groom's eyes. The groom didn't answer. His eyes were grey. His lips would mutter something from time to time, but no one could tell if the words meant anything. Hey, are you listening? All of you? She spoke to the groom in the plural. Of course, there was only one groom. And of course that the grey-eyed groom didn't answer. You can hear, but you can't answer, right? Don't worry, okay, butler-san. I'll take everything of yours and trample all over it. The Witch of Miracles sneered with an evil smile that would make even demons want to avert their gaze. Even that sneer provoked no response from Butler's dim eyes. People live for the sake of love. Therefore, today, you have fulfilled the purpose of your lives. Oh, how great is the power to live! The power of love! I pray that the brightness of this day blesses these two for all time. Just give it a rest already, you demons. What comes next? The couple will now make an oath of eternal love. After that, they will exchange rings. On Butler's hand was a ring bearing the seal of the one-winged eagle, proof that he was the territory lord of this world. And on Erika's finger was a diamond ring that could not be shattered by any miracle. Diamonds signify an eternal bond. However, in Greek, the word diamond simply means unbreakable. Break down, break down. Erika wasn't vowing to love Butler forever. She just wanted to make Butler as her property for all eternity. This wedding was being performed for the sole purpose of humiliating Butler. Don't worry, I won't love you forever. After all, the point of this ceremony is to make you submit to me. Your heart will be shut inside an inescapable locked room forever, where I, Furudo Erika, the detective and the witch of truth, will command it. Your position as territory lord and your ring will become mine. Can get... What was that? Get out. Yes, I'll bet you can't get out of that locked room. After all, you made that locked room yourself. You will suffer in that room for all eternity. I'll remain by your side as your wife for eternity and get to enjoy that look of anguish on your face all by myself. I'll defile you forever. Questa non vi faccio alzare le aspettative, è la stessa opening di episodio 5. 5 e 6 hanno la stessa opening. Però, che dire? Che opening intrigante, particolare. C'è sicuramente stato un qualche tipo di time skip qui, perché noi abbiamo lasciato Butler, che è appena diventato Territory Lord, che è appena diventato Game Master, e a quanto pare è successo qualcosa. Adesso lui sembra bloccato, ha gli occhi opachi. Ovviamente la memoria va subito a Beatrice, però di episodio 5. Però c'è qualcosa di diverso in questo caso. Si parla di una locked room. Ovviamente la prima cosa che è venuta in mente anche a me. Deve essergli successo qualcosa come a Beatrice. Può essere così incompetente. Incompetente anche a fare il Game Master. Incredibile. Ciru. Bene. Questo capitolo si chiama episodio 6, capitolo 1, The Witch of Theater Going. All that could be heard was the sound of the wind, a sound of misfortune strong enough to bring sadness and unease to those who heard it. Slowly, I came back to my senses. I finally regained consciousness on top of a bed with a firm mattress. Where was this again? I couldn't remember where this was, but I could vaguely recall that it was very bad for me to be here. The room was dimly lit. There was a light on, but that just made the darkness and eeriness of the room more apparent. Tra l'altro questa è la guest room, una delle. There were no curtains over the window, but it was too dark outside to see anything beyond it. If I squinted into that pitch blackness, I felt as though I would see the witch of the forest speaking back at me through the darkness, and I averted my gaze from the window in fear. I couldn't see or hear it, but I got the feeling that if I left this room, it would be bright and warm and someone would be there for me. I have to get to where everyone else is right now. A bad memory from when I was very young began to well up. I was having trouble staying awake during a family gathering, and the next thing I knew, I was lying on a bed in a room I'd never seen before. I have horrible, painful memory of waking up in there, feeling incredibly lonely and crying my eyes out. This room, I'm not supposed to be here. I just want out. Once I started to think that way, I didn't want to stay in this room a second longer than I had to. This room scares me. It's creepy. Where is everyone? I want to get out of here right now. I opened the door, trying to leave the room. A pleasant glow snuck through the crack of the door. As I thought, the corridor was filled with a comforting light. I couldn't actually hear them, but I could sense that far away people were enjoying themselves. Everyone else must be gathered in the room across from this one. I've been shut up in this lonely, creepy room all alone. I should go quickly. Animazione incredibile! As soon as I thought this, a mercilessly metallic sound rang out, and the door refused to open any further. The chain had been set. I've always hated chain locks. You can open a normal lock just by twisting, but chain locks are built in a kind of annoying way where it's difficult to undo them easily. So I've hated them since I was very young. See, even this chain is causing me trouble, and I just can't get it undone. Why is this happening? I just want to leave this creepy room right away. Just on the other side of this thin door, everything is bathed in a warm light. I can't undo it, I just can't undo this chain. The more desperate I grew, the more the unsettling darkness of this room seemed to close in on me from behind, and the more frightened I became. Then I finally noticed there was something wrong with this chain. Yes, there is a chain, but this isn't a chain lock. It's just a chain staked into the door, so I just can't open it any further. In other words, it isn't made to be opened. What the hell is going on? Who'd do something like this? Damn it. No matter what I did, no matter how much I struggled, I couldn't pull out the stake or undo the chain or break the mechanism. This door was just a demon's mouth, made to trick me into thinking it would open before crushing my hopes a moment later. Even so, if only I could just open this door somehow, I could get out into that pleasant corridor. This desire forced me to keep my hand glued on the doorknob. But it was useless. Both the chain and the stake were firm, and though they clattered about, there was no chance of them letting the door open any further. Even though I could see the pleasant hallway through the crack, I had no chance of opening the door any further. Maybe someone will come if I yell. Maybe the door can be opened easily from the outside. When I thought of this, I tried to call out to someone, but it was as though the wind had been knocked out of me. I could mouth the words, "Someone come here," but no voice left my lips. What's going on? Someone come! Why can't I cry out? Help me, help me, help me! Not even being able to say help me out loud scared me more than anything. And if I turned around, the witch gazing into the room from the darkness outside might now be inside the room, standing right behind me. I'm frightened, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. Someone help me, someone help me! I can't get out, I can't get out. Let me out of this room. Help me, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. Let me out, let me out, let me out. Help me, help me, help me. Cambio mood completo. Missy? It sounds like they've arrived. Huh? Amakusa ran his finger down my cheek. I woke in an instant from the doze I had just been in. I glared at Amakusa for waking me up in such a creepy way, but he just played dumb. Where is this? I feel like a parlor in the house of some well-off person, but I have no memory of this place at all. Where is this? And why am I here? Are you still half asleep, Missy? Yeah, sorry. Where are we? Huh? Apparently, he hadn't expected me to forget something like that just because I wasn't fully awake yet. Oddly enough, I agreed. Why am I in this parlor that I don't recognize? The sound of the footsteps of the person or people that Amakusa had mentioned had come right up the opposite side of the door. I could hear the sound of a conversation. They were probably women. Judging by the coffee and snacks laid in front of me, I was the guest here. In that case, I'd better remember why I came here, or at least who it was I came to visit. Who am I? Ushiro Mienge. Who is the man standing behind me? Amakusa Juza, the man who used to be my guard long ago. He is now the bodyguard Okonogi assigned to me. In that case, after Aunt Eva died, I must have thrown off my pursuers and gone on a journey to find out what happened on that day 12 years ago. Is that what happened? Did I have a memory of this? After a knock, the door opened, and the person I must have come here to meet entered along with a maid. Oh, wonderful. Even after seeing her face, I can't remember who she is. Sorry to have kept you waiting. This is Achijo Toya. Ma traduce sensei, quindi maestra, professoressa. Achijo Toya. That's a relief. The maid introduced her for me. And I finally remember who she was. She? I was told it was a he. Excuse me, but who are you? Yes, I am Achijo Toya. The magazines talked about your book signing event. Supposedly, a mysterious male author showed up wearing sunglasses and a mask. Never thought you'd be a woman. What's the deal? That was just a double set up by the editing department. I was the assistant standing behind him at the book signing. Now there's a shock. I haven't read your works, but I'll bet you're even more of a mystery than your books are. My readers only pretend to read my books. They buy them just based on the name of the author and the brand that they think they'll actually and think that they've actually read them. No matter what I write in my books, they don't truly read anything. They just pretend to read so they can look smart and knowledgeable and keep up with the current fad. Am I supposed to expose myself to these people? Oh, I indulge in such trash. I see. Looks like you really are the great Achijo. This person really is eccentric. There's no doubt about it, this is Achijo Toya herself. Achijo Toya is a mystery novelist who has become the center of a discussion lately. Although her actual books are also apparently highly praised, it's her mysterious debut that's attracted so much attention towards her lately. Last year, she somehow managed to win several different awards for exceptional mystery novels offered by multiple large publishing companies, submitting each of her works under a different pen name. And after that, several highly regarded anonymous works were discovered, one after another, to have been stories she had written in the past under false names. And her popularity soared as she herself became more mysterious than her books. Despite all of this, the author herself never appeared in public, and everything about her was wrapped in a veil of secrecy. However, just a few days ago, this author had finally made a public appearance for a book signing, showing up with a mask and covered his face and drawing even more public attention. And yet, apparently even that had been a fake. Given this person's radically unconventional track record, it was hardly a surprise to hear her casually insult her fans like that. I know quite a lot about you, Ushiromiya Enge-san. The talk shows have been discussing you from some time now. I'm sure you've heard nothing good. Yes, nothing good at all. Apparently, you employ and then fire people on a whim. Think anything can be resolved with money, and you are an outlaw and a thug. Yep, sounds about right. However, I happen to like intelligent people like you. Is that why you agreed to meet with me? Exactly. You're the only person who's managed to spot that Ito Ikukuro 0576 is another pen name used by Hachiyo Toya. That's actually pretty impressive. Ito Ikukuro 0576. It was a pretty strange username. However, if you match the Japanese syllables to the numbers, you can read it as 11019960576. Ito Ikukuro 576. This massive number is equal to 18 to the 8th power. In Japanese, Toya no Hachiyo. That's how you reach Hachiyo Toya. Very well done. I was quite impressed. In fact, I was so impressed, I decided to let you meet me in person. Welcome to my mansion, child of man. Oh no, oh no. Oh no, il child of man sta arrivando. Vabbè. Per chi non conosce quello a cui sto facendo citazione in questo momento, è Ultra Kill. Sisyphus Prime si riferisce a V1 come Child of Man. Come forth, Child of Man, and die. Questo è il taglio dopo. Her manner of speaking was extremely condescending, but perhaps because of her elegant manner it didn't feel particularly irritating. This person had a sort of majestic grandeur about her which made that style of speech seem almost natural. At least that's how it felt to me. In fact, it felt almost as though this was the manifestation of some noble being who would have no need to show herself before mere humans under normal circumstances. Since I'm not particularly a fan of hers, I guess this is proof that her mysterious charisma really is nothing to be laughed at. However, I didn't come here to talk to Hachiyo Toya, the mystery novelist. I'm interested in Ito Ikokuro 0576, the mysterious web author who only released her works over the internet. Around the Japanese part of the internet, Ito Ikukuro is an extremely famous witch hunter. However, she isn't a big opinion leader like Professor Otsuki. She is one of those message bottle forgers who are always at the center of a vigorous debate. Message bottle forgers are, as the name suggests, people who forge and post the contents of riddle-filled message bottles which purport to tell the story of the Rokkenjima incident, claiming to have discovered a new message bottle. They post either a very similar counterfeit or a new theory with their own interpretation of the truth, claiming that it was written by Ushiromiya Maria. They openly call themselves Ushiromiya Maria, write up a new bizarre tale as if they had been there themselves and knew the truth, and send their stories out into the newest sea that mankind has discovered, the internet, calling them a third or a fourth message bottles. All of the first forgers were either simply pranksters or crooks trying to swindle collectors. However, eventually, people who claimed to have solved the riddles of the message bottles, tales, and reached the truth started to appear, and they started work creating third and fourth message bottles from Ushiromiya Maria, as though they had moved over the riddle teller's side. These people rewrote the tale of the witch with whatever interpretation they wanted, and every once in a while certain theories would gather an enormous amount of support on the web. Because of this, some of these creations began to be widely trusted that they were believed to contain some grain of truth. The more rigid witch hunters openly despised these people, calling them forgers, counterfeiters, or just witches. Though they claimed to have reached the truth, they refused to tell it and create fake message bottles as though testing everyone else. It's no surprise that the serious witch hunters were very annoyed by these forgers. However, there were many people who simply liked to entertain themselves with the occult fantasy of Rokkenjima, and a small number of those accepted this creation as literary works, glad of this expansion to the mystery tale. And of all forgers, Ito Ikokoro was the one most highly regarded.
End of the Golden Witch.
End of the Golden Witch. I read that one of yours. And it's nice to know you have no qualms about killing off other people's families. Is that why you came all this way, just to say that? I think not. Final descendant of the Ushiromiya family. In her latest forgery, End, she killed off at least 7 of my relatives during the story. No, if you count Alliance and Banquet, the other forgeries she's made before now, then she killed off most of my family in horrible ways over and over again. And of course, I'd want to complain. However, all of her works are known for being, in both form and level of completion, the closest tales to those written by Ushiromiya Maria herself. In particular, Ito Ikokoro's first forgery, Banquet of the Golden Witch, was a depiction so complete that it even included Ushiromiya Eva's escape to Kuadorian. People wonder whether this might be the true story of Rokkenjima, and it even made it onto the talk shows. So far, all of these tales have been nothing more than electronic text on the web. However, people will eventually realize that Ito Ikokoro is actually Hachiyo Toya. When that happens, these tales will become associated with that bizarre Hachiyo, and no one will think of them as mere fan creations. People will probably start wondering if this might actually be a third message bottle she had found and released under the guise of a story she wrote herself. When that happens, these stories will probably seem even more bizarre and credible. Ok, a quanto pare sì, Jover, a quanto pare allora i primi 2 adesso per esclusione devono essere, eravamo abbastanza sicuri anche prima, soprattutto rispetto ad alcune cose che sono stati detti e sono state dette, per esempio il fatto che erano 2 che erano che non contenevano il fatto che Eva sopravvivesse alla faccenda, è molto più probabile, cioè è molto probabile, non c'è data la certezza, è molto probabile che i 2 message bottles fossero Legend e Turn. Adesso abbiamo la conferma che Banquet, Alliance e End sono stati scritti da lei. Quindi anche se noi li esploriamo come storie scritte da Beatrice per il 3-4 e storia scritta da Lambda Delta per il 5, nel mondo reale queste storie esistono. Ovviamente sicuramente non c'è la parte magica, c'è la parte degli omicidi di Rokkenjima, ok? Quella parte, gli eventi del gioco, della game board, sono presenti nel mondo reale come forgeries di Toya. You are cunning, aren't you?
どうして
Why do you say that?
そうしてあなたは
You are doing this to make your
神秘性と
forgeries more
信憑性を
mysterious and more credible.
信憑性とは
What do you mean by credible?
それを得て
Once
あな
you've
たの
gained
嘘は真
credibility,
実
your
に昇華される
forgeries will rise to the level of truth.
昇華
Rise to the level of truth?
愚かしい
How foolish.
そんなもの
Such a
私の
thing is
作品には
unnecessary
必要
for
あ
my
りません
works.
なぜならあなたの
Is
作
that
品
because
は
your
偽証では
works are the
なく
truth
真
and
実
not
だ
mere forgeries?
ええ
Correct.
真実なので
They
すか
are
ら
the truth, so
昇
there's
華な
no
ど不
need
要
for them to rise into anything.
あなたはマリアお姉ちゃ
You
んじゃない
aren't Marianne-chan.
ましてや
And you
あの
weren't
日の
on
現実に
Rokkenjima
は
on
存在
that
しない
day.
なのに
So how can you be so absurd to call this the truth?
王女
Missy, you're getting a bit too stirred up.
うるさいわね
Shut up.
私のど
How
こが
can
そう
you
だっての
how can you call this stirred up? Angie realized that she'd let her emotions get to control over her, and she let out a sigh and shrugged.
あなたがここへ来た理
The
由
reason
は
for coming here, your reason for coming here,
親族を義書の
it
中に
wasn't to
何度も
yell
あ
at
る
me
の
for
私
murdering your family several times within my forgeries, correct? Hachio had been smiling at Angie kindly but in a condescending manner, or else like a mother might watch over a very small child. Angie realized this and was unable to suppress her irritation. Apparently Amakusa couldn't tell that Angie was getting worked up. He joked around with her for a bit so they could start the conversation over again from the beginning. Esatto, Andrew. Oh,
誰か
Rose.
が私に聞きたいのは
The thing you came here to hear
私の至った真
is the
実です
truth that I've reached, is it not?
どうして真実に至ったと
Why
確
are
信
you so sure that you've reached the truth?
すべての物語を理解
Because
した
I've
からです
understood all of the tales.
だからどうしてそう
And
だ
why
と
I'm
確信
asking
を
you, and I'm asking you why you're so sure about that.
太陽が地球の周りを回っていたことは
Do you
あ
think
る
the
と思い
sun
ます
ever revolved around the earth? Achio suddenly started talking about the geocentric model. Angie was about to tell her not to answer questions with more questions, but she quickly realized what Achio meant.
かつて人間は
Humans
現実を
used to
支持していた
support geocentrism.
しかし近代
However,
それは
that
否定
theory
される
has been disproven in the modern age.
なら否定された
Does
瞬
this
間に
mean that at the instant the theory was denied, the sun stopped moving around the earth and started revolving around the sun?
そんなわけもない
Of course not.
人間が
The
何を
truth
信じよう
doesn't
と
change based on what humans believe.
ならば今
It's the same with this case.
あなたが私の真実を
You're
否定する
denying
のは
my truth amounts to the
つまり
same
はそうい
thing.
うこと
Several scholars before Galileo proposed the heliocentric model. However, it was hard to objectively prove it using the scientific techniques available at the time. However, that didn't change the fact that it was the truth. And yet it moves.
真実はそ
So
の立証
you're
の意
saying
見
the
に関わ
truth
ら
is
ず
still the truth
真実
whether you can prove it or not.
そうです
Correct.
これより未来
In the future, when the full truth finally becomes known,
私がすでに
people
真
will
実に
look
至って
back
い
and
たと
realize that I
遡
had
って
already
人々は気が
discovered
つくで
it.
しょう
Apparently, Angie just couldn't stand Nachijo's attitude, and she kept getting irritated, and every time Amakusa would joke around until she settled down again. However, there could be no mistake that Achiyo was a genius, and had used her extraordinary intuition to form a most interesting perspective on the events that had occurred on that island. Sono d'accordo, Andrew, secondo me è su questo che voglio andare a parare, sul fatto che lei ha scoperto la verità leggendo solo Legend e Turn, e adesso lei è a livello del Game Master praticamente, può scrivere le storie perché lei sa la verità. That was why Enja had wanted to contact Ito Ikukuro and heard about her viewpoint and hear about her viewpoint. Still, she really was lucky to have been granted this meeting. Enja hadn't been absolutely sure that Ito Ikukuro was Hachiyo Toya. She hadn't thought that the publishing company would really contact the author. And most of all, she hadn't dreamed that the mysterious marked author would grant her an interview under such a short notice. Secondo me... non lo so, Andrew. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that the sum of the events leading to this meeting made for nothing short of a miracle. Yes, a miracle. After all, in most cases, I don't get contacted by the publishing company at all and leave for After all, in most cases, I don't get contacted by the contacted by the publishing company at all and leave for Nijima the next day. I left for Nijima, then I went on to Rokkenjima. Then I gave Onei-chan Saktaro. Huh? Why would I have Saktaro? My memory of the future is all muddled. My head hurts. Hachiyo said something about showing Enja something good, rose to the sofa and headed for the study desk. When she turned her back, Amakusa asked Enja, who seemed to be troubled about something, if she was okay. Hey, Amakusa, how long have I been here? Huh? You've been acting weird for a while now. What's going on? I can't remember how long I've been sitting here. Are you still sleepy? That's not it. I mean, I managed to get an appointment with Professor Otsuki, but the publishing company never got back to me about Ito Ikukuro. And in the end, I spent the whole of today unable to accomplish anything, I thought. Huh? Amakusa, I thought you went to go get that large black bag. That's right. Just before we left for Nijima, Amakusa and I briefly parted ways. He said something about getting a weapon from an acquaintance of his, and he went to go get that large black bag. Wasn't that today? What am I talking about? I mean, I didn't go to Nijima, meet Captain Kawabata, and inside the bed shop... Huh? What? Is something wrong? Did my confusion and uncertainty make me sigh out loud? Even though Achiyo's back was to me, she slowly turned around and smiled as though she had peered into my heart. No, it's nothing. Strange memories, ones that I can't even understand. I tried to hide my confusion, but for some reason Achiyo had a strange glint in her eyes, as though she could read my mind. I have revived and killed your family several times within various forgeries, almost as a witch might. Reviving and killing them whenever you like, endlessly. Sounds almost like Beatrice, doesn't it? Yes. It does.
だから私はやは
So
り
please follow my
ネ
lead
ット上
and
で
on
彼らがそう
or
呼ぶ
follow the lead or so please follow the lead of all those people on the
魔
web
女なのか
and
と思って
consider the possibility that I might be a witch. She took a thickly packed brown envelope out of a locked drawer. It appeared to be filled to bursting with pages of printed out text. Perhaps it was a manuscript for one of her works, and the neat letters written with a fountain pen on the envelope spelled out the word Dawn. There is no forgery by the name of Dawn, which must mean... ENG could tell this was a new one. Hachijo newest unreleased forgery.
Dawn of the Golden Witch.
Dawn of the Golden Witch.
全てを知る私
For
には
one such as I,
全て
who
が
knows
退屈
everything, everything is
し
boring.
かし何も知ら
However,
ぬ
I
うちに
don't
それを読ま
dislike
せ
letting the
何も
ignorant
したら
read my
反応を得る
works
こと
to
を
see what
開い
kind
て
of reaction they have.
だからあなたに読ん
And
でほ
so,
しい
I want you to read it.
新しい無限の
You
魔女と
want
し
me
て
to
の新
read
作を
your newest work, which you've created as the new Endless Witch?
そうです
Correct,
人の子よ
child of
あなた
man.
が憤慨しようと
Whether you
感嘆
resent
しよう
it or admire it,
それは
you can
私の
help
病
me
を
forget my
忘れさ
illness
せる
for a time.
もう茶番は終わりにしましょう
Let's put an end to this farce, shall we?
あんたは誰
Who are you?
私の記憶にこんな
I
出会
don't
いは
remember
ない
ever meeting you like this. Yes, I did try to contact Hachi Yotoya. However, in the end, I never got a chance to meet her. In other words, all of this is a
今
falsehood.
度は私は誰の駒
Whose piece am I this
悪
time?
いけど
Sorry, but if you
この後ろ見
can't,
のエンジン。
if you think you can tame Ushirami Enji so
飼いならせる
easily,
と思ったら
you're
大
making
間
a
違い
big mistake.
やはり
Yes,
そなたは
I
面白い
hope you'd be this interesting. She finally couldn't hold it back and burst out laughing. Gradually, the space around them seemed to fill with a strange purple mist. The room itself seemed to twist and bend. Her figure also twisted, and after transforming through something that couldn't be described, she took the form of just what she had called herself, a witch.
見事なり
Splendid!
よくぞ私を見破
You
っ
did well to see through my trick.
私ってつく
It
づく魔女に
seems I'm the
疲れ
type
る
that
少女
witches just love to cling to.
あんたたちに特徴的
All
な
of you have the
どこか
same
人に何の
condescending
特徴
tone towards other people.
すぐに魔女だって
I figure you were a witch right away. The novelist sitting on the sofa was nowhere to be seen. Even Enge's bodyguard, who was supposed to be around at times like this, was gone. There was only a non-human figure relaxing in a large, ornate rocking chair.
面白きかな人の
I find you to be truly interesting, child of man.
愉快なり
Your charming nature is the perfect thing to alleviate my boredom.
こっちは全然愉快じゃないわ
Well, I don't see anything charming about this.
どうして私は生きてるの
Why am I alive?
私は名前を
Wasn't
明か
I
した
killed in a
理由なんて
pretty nasty way for breaking the rule about revealing my name? Well, I did doubt that those people would just let me go so easily. What kind of farce was I to be forced to go along? What kind of farce will I be forced to go along with this time? I really don't care. I just want to do whatever I can within the bounds of the role they give me. Whatever I can to help Onichan. Of course I understand. Even if he wins, he'll never come back to me.
でもね
Even so, I'll struggle
あの
on.
日の私の
I'll
ところ
make
へ
sure Onichan comes back to the me of that day.
そう生きり立た
No
ずともよ
need to lose your temper.
私がそなた
I'm
に
not
求める
asking you to be
役
at
割は
peace.
じゃあ何の
Then,
用で呼び出
why
した
did you summon me here?
まさか
Don't tell me you want me to read this new story or whatever it is that you've written.
その通りだ
That is exactly. That's it,
そなた
exactly.
に望むのは
I do not want you to be my piece.
もとより私は
I
傍
have
観
always
者
been a mere observer.
あやつらのゲーム
I
に
have
ちょっ
no
かいを出す
intentions of sticking out my neck into their game.
意味わかんないわ。
I don't get
あん
it.
たは私に何を
What is
期
it
待
that
して
you
る
want from me?
私のために
Be an observer for me or an
Beatrice
observer of the
の
fragment Beatrice has woven?
観測者
An
よく
observer?
わかんないけど
I don't really know what that means, but no deal.
かつて
In the past, I've observed the fragments through Butler's eyes.
しかし
However, now he has succeeded the position. Now that he has succeeded the position of game master, he is not a suitable observer.
私は心より
I'm
純粋な気
following
持
this
ちで
tale
物
with
語
the
を
true and earnest
その
intentions.
私にとって
It would be such a waste to observe it through the eyes of Butler as he is now, like reading a detective novel backwards.
にも等しい興ざめ
お兄ちゃんがゲー
Oh,
ムマスター
Nichan is the game
何
master?
の話をしてるのかさっ
What
ぱ
on
りだ
earth are you talking about?
さっぱりだろ
Of course you don't
知
know.
りたいである
You want to know, don't you?
私も知
I
りたい
too wish to know something.
バトラがゲームマス
What
ターを
kind
継
of
承し
tale will Butler
紡ぐ
weave
物語
now
が
that he
どの
has
ように
taken the
なるか
position of game master?
そしてバトラが言ったことを
Furthermore, I wish
信
to
じ
search for the
どの
truth
ようなもの
Butler
か
reached as part of my own
私の
mental
自らの
journey.
思考の旅で追いたいのだ私は病の
My
深きに
illness affects me gravely.
考えねば
If I do not
行動を
think,
続けるこ
I
と
cannot
さえ
even
叶
keep my heart beating.
つまり
So,
あんたは新しい
you
本
want me
を
to read
私に朗読してもらいたい
you want me to read your new picture book aloud to you?
そういう解
You
釈
might as well interpret it that
見
way.
返りに
In exchange, you will also be able to take part in your own journey of the mind.
そなたとて
I do believe that even you have yet to reach the truth.
続けたいは
I
ずだ
think you want to continue on the journey to find that truth.
あんたに得をさせ
I
る
don't
義
owe
理
you
がない
anything.
生きがるな
Don't push your luck.
私は時に
I can be
考えれば
lenient at times, but that is not usually the case. Ange hadn't yet reached the truth either. Though she knew that the game was little more than a toy for witches to play with, she wanted it to resume so that she could follow the tale and close in on the king called Truth.
私が真実
I
に
might
至るため
follow
に
the tale so that I
物
can
語を謳歌
find
に
the
しな
truth
ければ
myself.
あんたのために
But I have no
最後まで
obligation
朗
to
読
read
する
it
義理が
aloud
ないわ
until the end for your sake.
意味はわかる
Understand? Ange was willing to read the story aloud, but she could quit at any time if this witch made her mad. She was in effect warning the witch not to annoy her.
無論だ
Of
絵
course,
本と称したが
you call it a picture
私にと
book,
っては
but to
死
me
に至る
it's only
病への
medicine for a
唯一の
fatal
薬
illness.
そなたの改造
I
に
cannot
して
take that
飲むこと
medicine
ので
without
きぬ
you
もの
to assist me.
すなわち
In other words,
相理共
this
生
is mutually beneficial. This is a mutually beneficial arrangement.
あんたが寝入るまで
So you're
私に
telling me
本
to
を
read you a
朗読しよう
book until you fall asleep,
その代わり
and in
私
exchange
にも読むことを
you'll let me read it too.
そういうことね
Is that right?
そうだ
Precisely.
引き受けてくれるな
If you
らば
are willing
し
to
ばしの
accept,
私の
I
朗
shall
読
ask
者
you
に
to
任せ
become my reader for a time.
偉そうな役職名だけど
Well, it's nice to get my own title, but all you really want me to do is read books, right?
私の朗読者であるということは
Becoming my reader means the same as becoming my familiar.
すなわち
In other words,
そなたへの
what
干
is
渉は
done against you will be
私への
done
干渉
against me.
私は
I will not permit anyone to disrupt my only interest, that being to read and the rest of Beatrice's
そ
tale.
なたをもてあそんだベルンカステルも
I will not let Berncastel, Lambda Delta, or even Beatrice force
そ
anything
なた
upon
に
you.
対して一切の強制力を持つことは許
Oops. This witch, who seemed to have an almost divine quality to her, spoke both quietly and forcefully. There was no threat in her words. However, even so, it was clear that she was on a different level than Berncastel and the other witches, and not at all to be taken lightly.
本を読ませる代わりに
So you'll offer me protection if I agree to read your book. Of course. What
What
I want is you to read. What I want is for you to read aloud to me. I will not spare who attempt to stand in the way of that. If my attitude seems arrogant to you, allow me to apologize, child of man. It may not seem so, but I am speaking to you with the utmost respect.
みたいね。
Yeah, probably. I get the feeling that even that witch-like style of speech is the most respect you've shown anyone in the last few centuries. When you're reading a book, do you tell it, "Thank you very much," before flipping through the pages?
そういうことよね。
I guess it is like that.
理解したわ。
I understand. Just by agreeing to have a conversation with Enge, she was showing an incredible amount of respect and willingness to compromise. Enge shrugged, but she also nodded to show her consent.
いいわ。
Sure,
あんたの朗
I'll
読者を
be
引
your
き受け
reader.
あんたが私に同意を求
I
めた
see that
時
you
点で
showed a ton of respect just by asking for my consent first.
良き理解だ。
You'll understand well, child of man.
私の名はエンジェ。
My name is
人
Enge,
の子だか竹の
not
子だか
child
呼ぶ
of
のはや
man
め
or
て。
whatever.
良いだろう。
Very well.
私が敬意を
As
示すこと
proof
が
of my
私に
respect for you, I will acknowledge your name. For her, acknowledging a human's name was like acknowledging the names of all the leaves scattered across the ground. So her acknowledging Enge's name was a miracle. No, it was immensely good
こ
fortune.
れよりそなた
From this
後ろ
point
宮エン
forth,
ジを
Ushiromiya Enge
感激の魔女
will
フェザリン
will
の
serve
アウ
as
グス
reader
サードーラ
and
の巫女
Miko
にして朗読者に任ずる
to the witch of theater going, Featherin Augustus Aurora.
そなたが朗読を終えるまで
Until you finish reading,
そなたの朗読を妨げ
I
よう
shall
とする
bring
全ての者
calamity
に
to all who
災いを
attempt
与
to
え
hinder your task. Then the witch of theater going, Feathering, spoke this. Enge. No, scusa. When the witch of theater going, Feathering, spoke this, Enge was wrapped up in a brilliant light. Enge didn't feel any particular change herself, but she definitely had been given something that only non-humans could sense. It signified that from this point onwards, Enge would be attached to the witch of theater going. That didn't mean that Enge would gain some sort of special power, but at the very least it probably meant that anyone wanting to cause her harm would first have to take on Feathering herself.
あんたの名前、随分と
Your
長い
name
ね。
is pretty long.
ローマの偉人。
Sounds like some ancient Roman
なん
person.
と呼べば？
What should I call you?
親しくない者はアウグ
Those
スト
not
スアウローラ
familiar with me call me Augustus Aurora.
私に敬意を示してくれたあんた
After
に
all the respect you've shown me, it's only fitting that I respond in
フ
kind.
ェザリーヌと呼ぶわ。
I'll call you Feathering.
問題は？
Any problems?
ない
Not at
病
all.
んだこの身には
For an
名を呼
ailing
ばれる
witch
こと
such
さ
as
え
myself,
彼氏願いのある
even
勇気だ
being called by my
人の子に
first name will be an experience to be treasured and pondered over, child of man.
エンジェよ。
I have a name, it's Enge. Even
So
conversations
you
like this are nice every
Kokoro
once in a while.
エンジ
Enge,
我が巫女
my Miko. Enge accepted her role. She would observe this tale with the witch of theater going. The curtain was rising on the sixth tale. Siccome siamo... aspetta. Un attimo. At one time, only Beato and her fellow witches had gathered in this smoking room to chat. Now, however, an unusually large number of people were present.
バトラーは一体
I wonder what kind of game Butler's going to show us. Anche io.
それが退屈を
I
忘
don't
れさせ
care what.
壊しがいある
As
も
long
の
as
な
it's
ら
fun
何でも
enough to relieve my boredom as I crush it.
お任せください我が主
Leave everything to me, my master.
必ずや
I will perform to my fullest and give you the results you desire. Yeah, you'd better. I kept making strange faces all the time last game thanks to you. Though I might start getting wrinkles. There's no need to worry. The beauty of your face is without peer, no matter how wrinkly you may get. It's rare to see Bern in such high spirits. Beato's game board really is something else. How sad that the master of this game board is no longer with us. A tiger dies and leaves behind its hide. Looks like Beato has died and left behind her game. Even though chess still exists, no one knows the name of the person who invented it. Oh, you're right! Oh, poor game creators. Come to think of it, Butler-san is really keeping us waiting, isn't he? Is he still setting up the 6th game? Gertrude, how are Lord Butler's preparation progressing? Fammi un bel kinke. For your attention, I beg to inform you of the following. Know that he will be finished very soon. He must have a lot of confidence in what he's creating to keep us waiting this long. He really humiliated me in front of my master last time. I'll defeat him no matter what it takes. And you in particular. Make sure you don't screw up again. I will meet the challenge with all of my strength. The previous game master, Lambda Delta, had confirmed that Butler understood everything about Beato's game. However, in order to prove it, Butler would have to run this game by himself and carry it through to completion. In other words, if Erika could crush this game of Butler's, she would, in effect, wipe away the dishonor of that last game. Though Erika was chomping at the bit to get started, it was taking Butler quite some time to show himself. Then a swarm of gold butterflies swelled out of nothing and formed a human shape. Oh, Butler che fa le cose come Beato. From the shape of that familiar dress, everyone immediately realized who it was. Ah no, invece no, era Beatrice, ok. Pensavo fosse Butler. Oh look, it's Beatrice-san. I thought you died and disappeared last time. Beato the player is the one who disappeared. This is probably just a piece, Butler's piece. Even if she is a piece, it does not change the fact that it is her. Beatrice gave an elegant curtsy as she appeared. This humble entrance was so vastly different from her usual high-pitched laugh that it created a sense of tension as they waited for the start of the 6th game to be announced at last. Father will be here very soon. I ask you that you wait for just a short while longer. Father? What's that? This game's new twist on things? Not only had Beato started talking in an unusually polite manner, she had also used the word father, probably referring to Butler. For an instant everyone was stunned into silence, but they quickly realized that this was part of something bigger and they grinned. Beato wasn't the type who could keep up this kind of act for long. It would probably fall apart in just a few seconds, leaving her laughing and cackling rudely at everyone. Erika, who was itching for a fight, went for Beato almost at once. I never expected that incompetent Butler-san to reach the truth of your game.
深淵を理解されたのでしょう。
It must have been Father's talent that led him to his profound
さ
understanding.
すがだと思います。
He really is clever.
しかしあんたもラッキ
You're
ー
pretty
です
lucky, aren't you?
バトラがゲーム
If
マスター
Butler
になれ
hadn't
なかった
become the game master, you would have never revived again.
全く
You clearly have the luck of the devil.
悪
The devil?
まあいずれにせよ
In any case, I'm going to pay you back in full for last time.
あんたという
You're
バトラ
just one of
の
Butler's
妄想
delusions.
幻想
Fantasies. I'll erase every part of you and knock you down into the abyss of oblivion.
私もミスミスやられる
Well,
わけには参りません。
I also intend to hold my own.
その
I
お手柔らかに
look forward to
よろしくお願いいたします。
having a good, clean fight. By this point, everyone realized that something weird was going on. There was no doubt that that face, that dress, and that hair were all Beatrice's. However, her expression was different. Even though she had Beato's face, Beato would never show anyone an expression like that.
誰よあんた
Just, who are you? There was a heavy silence. Lambda Delta spoke for everyone there. At first, Beato wore a smiling yet confused expression. However, when she realized that the mood had gone suddenly stiff, her expression finally darkened, and she hung her head.
あんた誰です
Who are you?
ベアトリーチェ教と
You
お見受
appear
け
to
してい
be
ますが
Lady Beatrice,
違うので
but
すか
is that true? Even Dlanor was forced to ask despite the rudeness of the question. That was how much this woman, who appeared to be Beato, was not.
皆さんの期待されるベアトリーチェとは違うでしょうか。
Am I somehow different from the Beatrice that all of you were expecting?
あんた何言ってん
What are you
の
talking about?
まさかとは思いますが
Wait a second.
記憶喪
Don't
失
tell
と
me
か
you
なん
have
とか言い出
amnesia
す
or
んじゃない
something.
でしょうね
私はまだ生まれたばかりですので、
I was only born
記憶は何
recently,
もありません。
so I have no memories at all.
ですが、
But
皆さんが期待されるベアトリ
I'm
ーチェ
studying
にな
hard
るよ
in
う
order to become the Beatrice you all expect.
ベアト、
Beato,
部屋にいるように言ったはずだ
I。thought I told you to stay in your room. Butler's voice came out of nowhere. His tone was very slightly cold. Beato's expression looked like that of a young girl being scolded. Eccolo! Eccolo. With a swirl of gold butterflies, Butler appeared. Con Rose poi in sottofondo. Ah! His dignified bearing and appearance were fitting for the ruler of this game. However, his expression was glooming, and his gaze was directed at Beato.
部屋に戻れ。
Go back to your
ここはお
room.
前のいる
You
場
aren't
所だ。
supposed to be here.
私は少しでもお父様のお役に立ちたくて。
I just wanted to help you however I could, Father.
部屋へ戻れ。
Go to your room. He spoke both softly and forcefully. Butler didn't leave her any room for debate. Beato hung her head and curtsied as she prepared to leave the room.
それから
Also, yes, what is it, Father?
俺の名はバトラ
My name is
ー。二
Butler.
度と他の呼び
Never
方を
call
する
me by another name again.
はい。
Yes. Beato melted into a swarm of butterflies and disappeared. This was the first part of the tale with Butler as the new game master. The witches had all expected him to come forward with some flashy big developments, so they were all fairly confused. Their mouths were still hanging open.
変わった趣向ね。
This is an unusual approach.
失礼した。
Pardon me.
今のは忘れてほしい。
Please forget what you just saw now.
うまいこと言
So,
った。
are you trying to
それも
trick us
作戦
with
のうちです
this?
か
You're scheming to give us the wrong impression, like North Wind and the Sun strategy, aren't you?
何かあったの
Is there something wrong?
気にするな。
Don't worry about it. It has nothing to do with you people.
そう
I see.
なら関係ないっ
Then
て
it
こと
doesn't matter.
さあバトラー
Alright, Butler, please start up the new game right away.
もう待たされすぎちゃっ
You've
て
kept
退
us
屈して
waiting
た
for
のか
so long. It's gotten totally boring.
あ
Sure.
あ、第6のゲームを
Let's
始める
start the 6th game.
エリカ。
Erika,
そして
and you
ベル
too,
ンカステル。
Bencaster.
これが俺の物語。
This would be my tale, proof that
俺
I've
が
reached the
ベアトの
truth
真相
about
に至った
Beato.
ことの証明だ。ラムダデルタ。
Lambda
それ
Delta,
を仙台ゲーム
please
マスターとして
oversee
見
this
届けて
game as a former game master.
楽しみにしてる
Sure,
わ
looking forward to it. What's the title?
ドン
Dawn,
黄金の魔女の夜
as in Dawn of the Golden Witch.
すぐに沈む
Of
冬の
course,
太
the
陽だ
winter
け
sun is quick to sink back below the horizon.
もちろんです
Of
我が
course,
主
my master.
すぐに引きず
I'll
り
drag
下ろ
it
してご
back
覧に
down
入れま
for
す
you right away.
タイトルだけはグッドです
At least your title is good, Butler-san. I'll give you that much.
気に入ってもらえてよ
I'm
かっ
glad you like it.
た。では始める
Then, let's get started.
これより
This 6th
第
game
6のゲ
will
ーム
now
を
begin.
開始する。
Butler solemnly announced the start of the game. Compared to his fired up attitude at the end of the last game, where he and Eric had sworn to settle everything next time, he was extremely quiet now. Secondo me sì, Ermicino, con un aftertaste di self-cessed. Angel,
ベアトの様子があまりにこれまで
Beato
と違
seems
う
different from the way she was before.
私も驚いてるよ
I'm surprised too.
何が何だかさっぱ
Don't
り
have a clue what's going on.
それ以前に
In
なんで
fact,
ベアトが
I
蘇っ
don't
てる
even
のか
get
さ
why
っぱりだ
Beato's revived in the first
さっ
place.
き読ませてもらった
I
けど
just finished reading it
前回の
a
物語
little
の
while
最後
ago,
で
but at
お
the
兄ちゃん
end
が
of the
真相にたどり
previous
着く直
tale,
前死んで消え
didn't
去ったん
she
だよ
die just before Onichan reached the truth?
この世界での死は2つある
There are two kinds of death in this
一
world.
つは
One
コマとして
of
ゲ
them,
ーム版
one
よ
of
り
them
取り
is
除
when
か
a
れる
piece is taken from the game
これ
board.
はゲームにおける
This
死
is
です
only a death within the bounds
仕
of
切
the
り直せ
game,
ば何度で
and
も蘇る
these
命
lives can revive over and over again and each time you start a new
だ
game.
から魔女たちは
And that's why the witches are so merciless when it comes to taking those lives. To the witch players, the lives of those characters who appeared on the game board are no different from pieces on a chessboard that take other pieces when they get taken. After all, these pieces will be set up again when the next game starts.
マリアにおける
Maria's
サクタロ
Sakutaro
が
is a
その
prime
駒の
example
最
of
たるもの
these.
であっただろうサクタロが
Sakutaro is
お姉ちゃんの
Onichan's piece? Yes, that does make sense. On the game board, that represents the inside of Onichan's head. Sakutaro certainly does exist, and it is a piece which always stays by her side. Though he's nothing more than a stuffed animal in the real world, on Onichan's game board he is a full piece, no different from any other piece.
でも
But
どうかし
I
ら
wonder,
魔女のゲーム
on
の
the
駒なら
witch's game board
簡単に
it's
生き返らせ
easy
ること
to
がで
revive
きる
a
んですよ
piece, right?
でもお
But
姉ちゃんの世
Onichan
界
was unable to revive
Sakutaro
Sakutaro in her
を蘇らせることができなか
world.
った世界でたった一
That's
つの
because she
ぬい
lost
ぐ
that
るみというよ
completely
り広が
unique
失われ
stuffed
たから
animal
だ
that was his vessel.
だから駒の存
Because
在
of
条
this,
件が
the
崩れ
condition
マ
for
リア
that
のゲー
piece's
ム版では
existence were
復活する
violated,
ことができ
and
な
it
かった
became impossible to revive him on Maria's game board.
そなたがその存
The
在
only
条件を
reason
再
you
び
were
満た
able
して
to
やったから
revive
こそ
Sakutaro on the game
サ
board
クタロウはゲ
was
ーム版に
because you
蘇る
once
ことが
again
できたのではない
satisfied the
か
conditions of his existence, correct?
確かに
True. Maria Nechan was only unable to revive him because she had lost the stuffed animal that was his vessel. If, like my family or on Beato's game board, she hadn't needed a vessel for him, she would have been able to revive him as often as she wanted.
そうね
Got
確かに
it.
サ
I
ク
see
タロウ
that
はお姉ちゃん
Sakutaro
の
might
駒か
be
もしれない
considered Onechan's
少
piece.
なくとも
At least as long as his vessel was okay, he could have been revived over and over again.
そう
Correct.
よりしろが無
As
事で
long
あ
as
る
the
限り
vessel is safe, it can be revived over and over again.
それが駒の命と
That's
いうも
what
の
that's what the life of a piece is like.
それがこの世界での
That's the
真の
first kind of
一つ
death in this world.
もう一つは
What's the second one? Ottima osservazione, Jover. Chissà che cazzo ha trovato, cos'è questa magia che ha trovato sotto le scale nel bed shop lì del tizio a Nijima.
ゲーム版の外の存在の
The
死だ
death of beings outside the game board.
サク太郎の話
To
で続ける
continue
な
with
ら
the Saktar example, that would be like Maria's death.
駒じゃなく
Not the piece, but the real Onechan's death, right?
死だけではない
Doesn't have to be her death.
興味や関心の
Loss
喪
of
失でも同じ
interest or
だ
concern would have done the same, would have the same effect.
マリアがぬいぐるみ遊びを
When
卒業
Maria
すれ
grows
ば
up from playing with stuffed animals, then Maria, the game player, will die.
さながら
It is as quick and easy as turning off the switch on a TV when you get bored of
あっ
it.
さ
なるほど
I see.
つまり
In that case, Beato the player completely gave up on winning during last game.
死んで消え去
So
った
she died and vanished.
ならつまり
Which means that if Beato thinks she has a chance of defeating Onichan again, she'll come back to life, right?
理屈ではそうだ
Logically, that is true.
人も魔女も
It's the same for people, witches, and even gods.
興味と関心を失
If
え
they
ば
lose interest or and concern, they can die at any time.
そしてそれを
And if
取り
they
戻せば
regain that interest, they can revive at any time.
しかし
However,
の世界には
though
時
the
間の概
concept
念
of
がない
time
か
does
ら
not exist in the
いつ
world
蘇
of
るも
gods,
自在だ
who
が
can revive whenever they want,
矢のごとく時が過
time
ぎ去
shoots
る
like an
人
arrow
は
in the human
それは
world,
容易で
and
はな
it's
い
not so easy there.
そうね
That's
一
true.
日のずる休み
Skipping
の
school for one day might not be a problem, but if you skip for 3 days in a row, it'd be really hard to convince yourself to go back.
それが1ヶ月
And what if that stretched out for a month, a year, a
それ
decade?
こそ魔女の
What
世
if
界
it
の
lasted for 1,000 years like the
千年
world of witches?
なるほど
I see.
ずる休みも
If you skipped for that long, it would mean your death as far as society is concerned.
それだけの長い間
If
死
you
んでいたら
remained dead for that long, not only would you be unable to catch up on all you missed in the world at large, you'd also lose any motivation you might have had when you left.
それはつまり
So,
命があっても
even
一度
though
死んだ
you'd
の
be
と同じ
alive,
こと
you
だ
could say that you've died once.
二度と
You would
元の自
never
分には
again
戻れない。
be able to regain that self that you once were. You would never revive.
ベアとは勝てる道理
Beato lost any chance or
全て
hope
失う
at of
それ
winning.
を知りつつ気づかぬふりを
Even though
し
she knew this, she pretended not to and kept on fighting for many, many games.
だからも
So,
うベアとは
Beato
戻
will
らない
not return.
彼女の希望を
Her hopes were crushed.
気を取り直
She
して
spent
再び
all
戦う
of the
気力の
willpower
全
that
て
she
を
might have used to regain that will to fight.
だからあの
Therefore,
ベアトリーチが蘇る
that Beatrice will never revive again. Boia, il rosso. That Beato, who just sat around the whole time with empty eyes in the 5th game, must have been her corpse. She had only managed to remain on the game board despite it all. No, she had managed to remain on the game board despite it all, but then even that corpse was wiped away. If Beato had been the game master of that time, at that time instead of Lambda Delta, the game board itself would have vanished at that moment and everything would have ended. Come to think of it, Beato started to lose the will to fight back near the end of the 4th game. When Beato loses her will to fight, the world of this game disappears. However, the witches wanted to keep playing in this game board world, so Lambda Delta bound Beato in place with the curse of that shackle. She used that shackle to make sure that the game board wouldn't disappear, even if Beato did lose the will to fight. In chess, it would be the equivalent of removing the set time limit for each turn, making it endless. However, simply having the game endlessly paused on Beato's turn would cause the witches to die from their illness of boredom. That's why Lambda Delta took the position of Game Master. Starting then, Beato's existence was no longer one of the conditions necessary for the game to exist. That's probably why the shackles binding her to the game board were released. And that explains why she disappeared in the 5th game.
お兄ちゃんは
So,
ベアトに
when Oni-chan managed to reach the truth,
一つ
it was one game too late for him to tell Beato about it.
第5のゲームなど
The 5th game was a form of charity on Lambda Delta's
バ
part.
トラの
She merely showed Butler some mercy as the Witch of Certainty, acknowledging his strong desire to reach the truth, no matter what.
何が慈悲
How can you call that
ただ
charity?
の魔女たちの
It's
暇つぶ
just
しの
those
気まぐれじゃ
fickle
ない
witches killing time.
話を戻すわ
Let's go back to the point. Let's get back to the
あの
point.
おかしなベア
So
ト
that means that
プレイヤー
this
のベアトじゃ
weird
ない
Beato isn't the player
ママ
Beato.
のベアトという
She's
ことだ
just a piece
そう
Beato.
だ
Yes.
だったら
And if
誰
that
もが
is
よく知
so,
るベアト
you
に
would,
なるはず
you would expect her to turn out as Beato everyone knows
バ
well.
トラもそういうベアトを
As
望
the
んで
Beato everyone knows well. That should also be the kind of Beato that Butler wants.
ぬいぐるみじゃ
You mean he wasn't satisfied with just a doll? When playing with dolls, one can project the personality they most desire onto the doll. However, since you were acting out their part, nothing unexpected can ever happen. You cannot hope for any unanticipated happiness. In the human world, there is nothing so boring as predictability. That's why, though a doll can become a person's best friend in the world, people eventually get bored and outgrow them. Oni-chan only wants the real Beato. He couldn't bear having a doll that he could only make act like Beato.
バトラ
Capisco.
の駒として生み出され
A
た
Beato born as Butler's
バトラ
piece
の望む通
will
り
probably
に動く
move exactly according to Butler's wishes.
駒なんだから当然だわ
She's a piece, so that's only
プレ
natural.
イヤーの指す通り
Pieces move according to the player's directions, and they are incapable of moving in any other way.
お兄ちゃんが何を望んで
I
る
see
のか
what it is that Oni-chan wants.
じゃあ
Then,
このおかしなベアト
just
は
who
何
is
者な
this
の
weird Beato?
バトラは
Butler might be trying to revive Beato in the truest sense. Sì, però i parallelismi con Kinzo si sprecano, eh. Revive Beato? E adesso c'è la Beato che, come prima non vi ho letto. Cioè, prima non l'ho letto ad alta voce, ma l'ho letto nella mia mente. Il modo in cui parla questa nuova Beatrice ricorda un sacco Beatrice Quadorian. Il fatto che poi chiama Butler padre. Adesso Butler sta cercando di far tornare in vita Beatrice. E secondo me non è neanche casuale che quando è arrivato hanno messo Rose, perché è un po' la canzone enigmatica di Kinzo, della sua solitudine, del suo amore malsano. Ecco. State buono, esatto, state buono.
人の子らの
It is the never dying dream held by the children of man.
あんたはさっき赤
You
を使
just
って
used the red to
それ
say
はない
that
と否定し
wasn't
たわ
possible.
あのベアトが蘇
That
ること
Beato
は
has no
決して
chance of
ない
reviving.
しかしもう一
However,
度
that doesn't mean
ベア
that
トを
it is
生み出す
impossible
こと
to
は
create
不可能では
Beato
ないとい
again.
うこと忘れたか
Have you forgotten?
第一の
I
ゲーム
believe
の
that
最後
Ben
で
Castle herself
ベンカステル
revealed Beato's
自
true
らが
form
ベアトの
at the
正体を
end
語
of
っ
the
た
first game. Cosa?
思い出したわ
Now I remember.
ルールが具現
She
化した
said
存
something
在
about
みたい
how
なこと言って
Beato exists as an incarnation of the rules.
そのルールと情報が練り
Rules
上げ
and
られ
information brought together
最終的にあの
ultimately
ベアトリ
took,
ーチェという魔
ultimately
女が
took the
形
form
作ら
of
れ
the
た
witch known as Beatrice.
それを再び
If
な
that
ぞれば
pattern is followed
同じ
once more, the same Beatrice will be born again.
それをもって
And perhaps
復活
one
と呼
could
ぶこと
call
もでき
that
る
a resurrection.
つまり
In other words, that weird beato is like an egg of beato or else a chick. That interpretation is probably accurate. In short, this beato is a chick that might become that beato. That means this pure and lovable kid will eventually grow into that screwed up crazy witch. In other words, that beato is a baby version of the beato we all know. So just like how no person is born evil, the newborn beato isn't evil either. Even though she really is a different person, if you measure her by her basis, her soul, then maybe you really could call this a resurrection. However, this reality can't possibly be easy to accept. Though she may technically be Beato herself, she is also, without a doubt, a different person. And that way she acts would make anyone feel as though something is out of place. How entertaining. Hearing you read aloud is far from boring. I wonder if you even really need someone to read aloud for you. It looks like you already know everything. I only reached that thought because I am engaged in a conversation with you. My thoughts are more numerous than the stars in the sky. I only appear to know everything to a child of man like you. However, without you here, I am nothing but a weak, sickly person without even the power to think. If you just said that in the first place, I'd have agreed to read for you a lot more easily. My mood just happened to improve. Don't get an overswelled impression of yourself. I think of your life as nothing more than a leaf one may lose after using it as a bookmark. Please continue reading, is how I choose to interpret that, okay? Far from boring. You really do make as an excellent Miko. Feathering rocked back in a rocking chair and looked up at the ceiling, laughing as though the conversation itself was pleasant for her. Angel was slowly figuring out how to deal with this strange witch. This person was also bored. When a sick person has been in bed for a long time and gets too bored, they sometimes act in a rebellious way. On the other hand, they also get a little bored of being treated kindly all the time. She may want to be respected for her superiority, but it's probably more interesting for her when she's spoken a little rudely. What a coincidence, that's exactly how I used to be. Anyway, from what we've learned in the fourth game, there's no doubt that there was some kind of bad blood between Beato and Onichan in the past. Learning about this Beato might give us a key towards finding the truth. It does seem so. It has caught my interest as well. Let us read her tale too. Oh, sure. As you wish, my master. Waga Aruji anche lei, eh? Angel raised her hand like a conductor, and the bookshelves in the bizarre study responded. Once again, several books floated out and began to swirl around Angel. Study Kinzo. Kinzo's study is the room belonging to the master in the human world. So this study in the world of the non-humans belonged to the master of the game board, and was a place where he could look down upon the humans. Therefore, it was understandable that one might mistake the imposing robe-clad man in the center of the study for Kinzo, if only for a second. It wasn't Kinzo, it was Butler, the one who had taken up the position of Game Master. Sì, ma quante cose dovete mettermi? Cioè, ok. Butler, Game Master uguale Kinzo, va bene. Who had become the new territory lord of this world. Around Butler was a swirl of glowing fragments sparkling like the night sky. And on the floor was what happened to be a red magic circle. To an outsider, it would have appeared to be nothing more than an incomprehensible geometric shape. But to Butler, who stood at the center, it was the outline for a new tale. A new line grew across the magic circle following Butler's gaze. Then, at the instant it connected with a complicated symbol, the entire magic circle flashed brightly. Butler che fa le magie. Incredibile.
これで
So,
どうだ
how does it look?
見事です。
It is splendid, my lord.
第6のゲ
The
ー
sixth
ム
game
完成で
is
ございます。
complete. As Butler wiped his forehead and finally relaxed, Genji, who was standing behind him and watching over his every move, nodded deeply in response.
俺は
I always thought that being a game master meant you could make the tale however you want.
ばかり思っていたが
But this is seriously harder than I thought it'd be.
複数の物語を
You
描き
must write up multiple tales and make the inner and outer sides of the story match.
それにしても
And yet, you have displayed such skill.
見事なお
It
手並み
is
でした。
hard to believe that this is your first
エ
time.
リカ様も
I believe even Erika-sama will be satisfied with this game.
あの探偵殿の好みに合うと
Well,
思うんだ
hopefully it matches that great detective's tastes.
しかし
Still, I've got to honestly respect Beato now.
よくあんな
I
や
can
やこしい物
hardly
語
believe that she managed to create such complicated stories so easily.
あっさりとではありません。
It was not easy.
ベアトリーチェ様
Beatrice-sama spent a long time deliberating, and each time she created a tale, she would worry over various contradictions.
常にロジック
She
エラー
was
と戦われ
constantly
ておりました
battling with logic errors.
ロジックエラー
Logic errors?
物語の
That is when the
表
two
裏が合わない
sides of the tale do
矛
not
盾
meet,
することでございます。
creating a contradiction.
これが生じると
When this happens, it becomes a fatal violation of the rules known as
即座にゲーム
when
版を
it becomes a fatal violation of the rules known as a logic error, the game board will immediately collapse and be
魔
destroyed.
女側が犯す
It is the greatest and worst form of error that the witch side can make, and one which must always be avoided.
ベアトのゲームも何度
Beato
かそれに抵触し
got
そうになっ
close to bumping into those several times in her games.
ゲームを生み出
She
す際に
fought with them
常
every
にそ
single
れと
time she
戦われて
created
お
a
りました
game.
特に
I believe it grew even more difficult for her as you became a more
相当の苦
effective
労をなさってい
opponent.
たようです。
今回の俺のこのゲーム
So,
ベアトに見せても
do you think this game I've made is good enough to show Beato?
はい、
Yes,
それはもちろんで
of
ございま
course.
す。
ベアト
Has
Madame,
Beato
also-
still not woken up? It's been a while since her body was formed as a personification of the rules.
まだ目覚めないのか
Is she still not awake? After remaining silent for a while longer, Genji answered.
3日ほど前に
She woke up 3 days ago.
バトラ様が第
We
6
were
のゲームの設
concentrating on the
計に集
construction
中
of the
されており
sixth
ました
game,
ので
so I decided to wait before telling you.
申し訳ございません。
My sincerest apologies.
そうだったか
Oh, really?
あいつめ
Yeah, I bet she's still all drowsy for sleeping for so
寝ぼ
long.
けてやがったに違いないあいつにぜ
I
ひ
really
俺
wanted.
のゲームを見てもらいたかった
I really wanted to show her my game. No, it's more than
あ
that.
いつに
I
俺は
have to show
ゲ
her
ームを見
my
せなきゃなら
game.
ないんだ
It's more. I have to show her my
俺
game.
が全てを
I
理
need
解
to
した
tell her that I've understood
あいつに
everything.
教えなきゃならない
Butler's face broke into a smile. There was no trace in his expression of the hatred he had felt once towards Beato for murdering his family.
ある意味
In a way, that was the final mystery of the fifth game.
そうだ
Yes.
バトラーは真相
When
に至る
Butler
と同
reached
時
the
に
truth,
ベ
there
アト
was a
に関
great
する心
change
象が
in
大きく
his
変わった
impression of Beato.
それはつまり
Does this
やはり
mean
お兄
it's
ちゃん
fair
と
to
ベアト
assume
には
that
何か
there
の関
really
係があ
was
って
some kind of connection between Unichan and
それ
Beato,
を彼が
and
放
that
出してい
he
たと考え
forgot
るの
all
が適
about
当なの
it? However, Butler suspected this in the fourth game and asked Beato about it. And within the story, this was denied by the Red Truth. 6 years ago, no person called Beatrice existed for Butler.
6年前に
We
ベ
can
アトが
read
存
this
在
as
しな
saying
かっ
that
たと
Beato
受け
did
取れる
not
し
exist 6 years before.
6年前に
Or
は
it could simply
バトラ
mean
と
that
縁
she
が
had
な
no
かったと受
connection
け
to
取れる
Butler at that time. しかしいずれにしても
However,
either way,
バトラはその後
Butler
6
did
年
not
間
visit Rokkenjima at all for the next 6 years.
ベアトリーチェとお兄ちゃ
October
んは
4th,
この
1986 should have been the
1986
first time
10月
between
4日が初対面
Beatrice
のはず
and it should have been the first time that Beatrice and Unichan met.
なのに
If
どうしてすで
so,
に
why
確執があ
was
る
there already some kind of bad blood between them?
さっぱり意味がわからないわ
I don't have a clue what that means.
第4のゲームでベアトがバト
The
ラに
Ushiromiya
言った
Butler sin, which Beato questioned Butler about in the fourth game,
後ろ宮バトラの
might give us a clue.
なその
Ne
結果
stavamo
が
parlando prima.
ベアトリーチェ
The
という存
result
在
of
なの
that
かもしれない
might have been Beatrice herself.
その結果
The
お
result?
兄ちゃんの罪の
The
結果は
result of Onichan's sin was Beato? That almost sounds as though Onichan created the witch called Beatrice himself.
まるで
Almost as though Beatrice was
バトラの子供のよ
Butler's
うだ
piece.
な6年前のバトラ
6 years ago, Butler committed a sin.
その罪で
Because of that sin, people died.
殺すのはベアトリ
The killer was Beatrice.
すべてが6
If
年
you
前の
consider
バ
the
トラの
possibility
罪か
that
ら
everything is
連盟
connected to
することを考え
Butler's sin 6 years before,
ベアトリーチェを
then the
生み
one
出
who
したのは
created
バトラ
Beatrice
自身
was Butler himself.
まるでバトラ
I
の
thought it
駒にな
sounded
った
almost as though she was Butler's piece.
意味わかんないわ
I don't get it.
お兄ちゃんが何かの
If
罪を犯
Onichan
したと
sinned
して
in
も
some way, it must have been something much lighter than murder, at the very least.
それに対する仕返し
If
は
someone
この
caused
大量
this
殺人
huge
からだとしたら
massacre in retaliation for
あ
that,
まりにお兄ちゃんの罪
that's
と割
totally
り合
out
わ
of
ない
proportion.
ベアトは
Beato
親族
killed
た
our
ちを皆殺し
family.
にしたお父さんも
Dad,
お母さんも
Mom,
お兄ちゃん
Onichan, everyone.
みんなそれに見合う
I
罪が
can't
お
believe
兄ち
that
ゃんにあった
Onichan's
なんて
sin was anything deserving of that.
罪は測る人
The
間に
weight of a sin
重さが
depends on the person measuring it.
バトラにとって
Even a
防止
sin
できる
so
程度の
light
罪
that Butler might have forgotten
ベアトにとって
would
は
have
6
been
年
so
を経て
serious that
一
Beato,
族を皆殺しにす
to
るほど
Beato,
の恨みを
that
持
she
つに
hated
値
him
するもの
enough
だ
to
った
massacre his own family a full 6 years after the fact.
まあ私もそれは
Well, even I think that is a bit excessive, and more importantly, if she were a person like that,
真相を知
I
った
would
と
find
はい
it
え
hard to accept that Butler would act so friendly towards her after discovering the truth. Federin's observation was extremely interesting. In the past game, Beato said clearly that Onichan's sin 6 years before was the cause of this 2-day tragedy. I still don't know what kind of sin that was. However, he figured it out at the end of the 5th game, and even apologized to Beato. Even though she was the witch who massacred his entire family in retaliation for his sin of 6 years before, Butler apologized to her. Of course, it was the player Butler who apologized, not the piece Butler whose family had been murdered over and over again. But even so, Butler must have remembered something at the end of the last game that made him feel like apologizing.
その6年前の罪
The sin from 6 years
こ
before.
れまでの物語の
Does
どこ
that
かに
mean that it's hidden somewhere in this tale so far?
私はすでに
I have already formed a theory about it.
え
Oh?
聞かせてよ
Let me hear it. I can't tell you yet. I want to enjoy being the only one who knows the answer for a little while longer.
続き
Well then, I guess I'm done reading for you. Well, we can't have that, can we?
しばし耐え
Have some patience and read a bit further.
私の
My
仮説も
theory
ま
is
だ
not still
想像の
nothing
域
more than a
確
guess.
信を持ったら
Once I'm certain
その
of
時
it,
話すこと
I'll
にし
tell you.
はいはい
Okay, my master.
私だって続きを知りた
I
い
actually do want to hear what comes next after all. Onichan and Beatrice. Just what kind of connection is there between them? Learning that will probably be the ultimate key to the truth of this world. After all, remembering that was what enabled him to reach the truth. Oddio.
ベアトリーチェ
Questo cos'è? Che luogo è questo? Ecuadorian? No, non è Ecuadorian. O forse sì, mi sa che è Ecuadorian.
親方様、ようこそお越し。
Welcome, my lord.
ベアトリーチェ様がお待ちでござい
Beatrice
ま
sama
す。
is waiting for you.
どうぞこちらへ。
This way, please. This place was a villa set aside for Beatrice's use. It was a sacred site for her only, built so that she could spend her days without being affected by the outside world. My heart began to race. I'm so glad that she was able to revive and that everything's okay. Beato is a personification of the rules. So even though she was destroyed once, it's possible for her to be reborn again. Butler had quickly succeeded in reviving Beato's body, but he had had trouble summoning her soul back. However, during the time he had spent immersed in the creation of the 6th game, she had woken up. And this had happened 3 days ago. Butler let himself be led into the dining hall that had been set up for his and Beato's use. It existed so that they could enjoy some black tea while discussing the truth, now that he had finally reached it in its entirety. I want to tell her. I want to tell Beato that I found the truth. Butler couldn't hold back his excitement over this miracle he had been granted, that Beato was waiting for him in the dining hall to hear what he had to say.
ベアトリーチェはどうなんだ
How is Beatrice?
変わりないか
Same as
元
usual.
気そうか
Is she in high spirits?
ええ
Oh yes, she's in very high spirits now.
親方様が
She
おい
has
でに
been
なるの
waiting for you
ずっと
all this
お待ち
time,
で
my
いらっしゃいま
lord.
したと
Oh
も
yes.
食堂にいるのか
Is she in the dining hall? Is she eating or something?
ああいいさ
Oh, that's
何でも
alright, it
構わ
doesn't
ない
matter either way. Oh,
驚きますよ
you'll be surprised.
ベアトリーチェ
Beatrice! When he swung open the doors to the dining hall, Butler was greeted by a wonderful sight. Though the food laid out on the table wasn't particularly sensational, it was arranged beautifully and the champagne bottle stood there waiting. Then the person clad in that familiar dress with the beautiful golden hair bowed deeply in greeting.
ベアトリーチェ
Beatrice.
私に姿を与えてくださり誠にありがとうございます
You have my sincerest gratitude for giving me this form.
いいんだ
Come
そんなの
on.
は
Don't worry about that.
よかった
I'm so glad.
ベアト
Butler rushed up to Beato and hugged her tightly, just to make sure her body wasn't just mist or an illusion.
俺は
I,
お前の謎を
I
ちゃんと
solved
解いた
your
ぞ
riddle for you.
なのにそれを
But
伝え
then,
る前に
before I could tell you
消
about
えち
it,
まいやがって
you went and disappeared.
私はここにいます
I am right here.
消えたりなんかしま
I
せん
will not disappear.
やめろよそんな
It's
喋
okay,
り
you
方
can stop talking like that.
恩を着せ
I'm
る
not
つもり
going
なん
to
か
ask you for
全然ない
anything in return.
とにかく
Anyways, I want to apologize.
そして語らいた
I
い
want to talk with you. I don't even know where I should start.
言い方さえわからない。
私がお父様に謝られることなど、私はただお父様のお役に立てればそれで幸せなのです。
You have done nothing that you need to apologize for, Father. I'm glad just to be of service to you.
ベアト、
ベアトリーチェはお父様のために生まれてきました。どうかあなたの力にならせてください。そしてお父様、第6のゲームの完成、誠におめでとうございます。
I was born for your sake, Father. Please let me support you. And Father, congratulations on completing the 6th game.
だからそんな喋り方やめろって。
I told you, stop talking like
うさん
that.
くさくてたまらねえ
It's
ぜ。
totally creepy.
この喋り方ではお気に召しませんか？部長法をどうかお許しください。
Do you find this style of speech displeasing? Please forgive my rudeness.
お気に召しませんかってことはねえ
Well,
が。
I don't find it displeasing, but it's not like
や
you.
っぱお前は
I guess I like the way you usually talk best. Beato smiled vaguely. To Butler, it probably looked as though they were both smiling over the same joke. However, Butler's smile was... Beato's smile was literally vague and uncertain. After all, she didn't know how she was supposed to talk.
それよりベアト、
Anyways,
一
Beato,
体これは何の
what
冗
kind
談だ
of
ったん
joke
だ
is this?
まさか
Don't tell me that the
大
great
ベアトリーチェ
Beatrice-sama
様
decided to cook
手
for
料理
me.
を作ったってのか。
第6のゲームが完成さ
When
れ
I
ま
heard
した
that you had completed the 6th game,
ささやかです
I
が
wanted to see if I could prepare a modest reward to congratulate you.
ベアトリーチェ様がそれはもう大層頑張られてお作りになられたんですよ。私は一切手伝っておりませんとも。ええ。
Beatrice-sama really worked hard on this. I didn't even need to lend a hand at all. No, I didn't. The food set on the table really was modest and inexpertly made. You could tell by looking at it that Beato, who wasn't particularly skilled with cooking, had given it her best, giving it her all when making it. However, signs of discomfort and irritation were beginning to appear on Butler's face.
これはどういうことだ。
What is this all about?
ええ。ですから。
Well, she said Beatrice-sama decided that she would like to congratulate. Sweat was starting to show up on Kumasawa's forehead. She was also feeling uneasy, but he noticed. Butler realized that it wasn't just his imagination. Beato turned her back to Butler and stuck a corkscrew into the champagne bottle. Then she showed it to
お
Butler.
父様、第6のゲームの完成、誠におめでとうございます。必ずや宿敵フルドエリカに勝利することを祈願してこれを捧げます。
Father, congratulations on the completion of the 6th game, in hopes that you will be proved victorious over your long-time rival, Furudo Erika. Pop. When presented with a champagne bottle and a sound like that, anyone would think that the cork had been pulled. However, it wasn't the cork, it was the bottom of the bottle. The high-quality champagne that Beato had procured splashed all over the floor and her dress. Then the same sound repeated several more times. Each time one of the plates of food on the table were knocked into the air.
お父様、お気に召しませんでしたか？
Father, did you find the food displeasing?
お前は誰だ。
Who are you?
私はベアトリーチェでございます。
Beatrice,
お父様のた
I
めに
was
生ま
born
れた
for
ば
your sake, Father.
違う。
No.
こいつは誰だ。
Who is this?
ベアトじゃない。
This isn't Beato.
そして俺を
Don't call me father. What's going on in here? What is this? Didn't I revive Beato? Genji, what is this all? What's this all about?
恐れながら
My apologies,
紛れもなく
but
そのお
that
方は
is
ベア
indeed
トリーチェ様でござい
Beatrice-sama.
ます
Oh mio Dio, col secondo butler dietro sembra che Genji abbia la K. Like hell it is. How is this supposed to be Beato? She's totally wrong. A fake.
いいえ
No,
ベアト
that
リーチェ
is
様でございます
Beatrice-sama.
ゲーム版のルー
It
ルに
is
従い
without a doubt Beatrice-sama, who was born in accordance with the rules of the game board.
いや
No, this isn't anything like Beato.
ベアトってのはもっと
Beato would always talk in this weird way. She'd laugh rudely and more and more.
いいえ
No, this is unquestionably
ベアトリ
Beatrice
ーチェ様
Sama
ご自身でござい
herself.
ます
じゃあどうしてこんな
Why
喋り方を
is
す
she
る
talking like that?
どうして俺をお父様なんて
Why
呼ぶん
is
だ
she calling me father?
ベアトリーチェ様は
Beatrice Sama
お
was
生まれ
only
になった
born
ばかり
a
でござい
short
ます
while ago.
かつてのよ
It
う
would
な
be
振る
far
舞いを
too
いきなり
cruel to
期待さ
expect
れる
her
のは
to act as she did, as she once did so soon.
まだ記憶が戻らない
You say that her memory hasn't returned yet.
親方様
My lord,
確かにこの方は
this person is most certainly Beatrice Sama herself.
しかし
However, she's not the Beatrice Sama you know so well.
どういう意味だ
What are you talking
俺
about?
はゲームマスター
I'm the game master, right?
どうしてベアトを蘇
Why
ら
can't
せら
I
れないんだ
revive Beato?
ええ
Oh yes,
確かに蘇りま
she
した
most certainly has revived.
しかし
However,
かつて
the
の
old
ベアトリー
Beatrice
チェ
Sama
様は
had
1000
lived
年を
for
経
a
られた
thousand
ベアトリーチェ
years.
様一方こちら
This
のベアトリー
Beatrice
チェ
Sama,
様
on
は
the other hand,
ご
was
本
only
人に
born
なれ
a short
生ま
while
れたば
ago.
かり違う人間
If
の
she
ように見
appears
え
to be
る
a
のは
different person, well,
致し方
that
ないこ
just
とで
can't
ござ
be
いま
helped.
す。
じゃあ
Then how can I revive that Beato?
体はあ
Her
る
body is right here.
魂はどうや
How
ればいい
can I revive her soul?
同じ1000年の人
If
生
she
を
lives
歩
the
む
same 1000 years life again, she would become the same Beatrice Sama she was before.
1000年も待て
Supposed to wait for 1000 years?
人の
A
性格は
person's personality
生まれ
isn't
ながらだけ
decided
のもの
solely
ではあ
by
りませ
their
ん。
birth.
その後の
It
生き
can
方
change
や経験に
drastically
よって
based on how they
いか
live
ように
and
も
what
変
they
わります。
experience.
意味がわかりますか
Do you understand?
同じベアトであっ
Even though she is the
同じで
same
ないという
Beato,
ことは
she is not the same.
わかるわ
I get
同
it.
じ人間が
Even
二
if
人
you
いた
had
としても
two of the exact same person, they could change enormously depending on their upbringing.
本来は同じ人
Even
間
though
で
they
あるに
might
もかか
both
わ
be
ら
the
ず
same human to
その
start
生い立ち
with,
によって
their upbringing could change them so that they effectively become two completely different people.
本来人は人
Usually, we use the term
人格
person
その
to
ものを
refer
指
to
し
a
て人と
person,
は呼びま
not
せん
their personality.
しかし人格を
However,
人
since
だと認める
humans
人間
recognize a person by their personality, they might as well be two different people from a human perspective. Oh, that's so true. If that tragedy 12 years ago hadn't happened, Missy here might have been a cute girl who could smile without looking weird.
失礼ね
That's
今
rude.
だって十分
I'm
キュ
cute
ート
enough right now, thank you very much. I understand. If a personality is what makes a person in our eyes, you could say that a second personality is a different person entirely, even if it inhabits the same flesh body. At the very least, I'm a completely different person than I used to be 12 years ago. And if my family had come home 12 years ago, then the end that resulted would surely be a completely different person from me. Even the same human can become different people. In fact, depending on their upbringing and endless possibilities, they can become an endless number of different people. So just because this is the same Beato, there's no guarantee that at all that she'll be the Beato that Onichan knows so well.
ましてや
And on top of that, Beatrice is a witch who lived 1,000 years. A person can die and be reborn in the span of just 3 days. 1,000 years is just too long.
あなたはなかなかできる読者のようですね。
It seems that you're quite a skilled reader. From most of my readers, it would be necessary to devote several hundred pages to explaining how a single human can become different people depending on their upbringing and the passage of time.
あまり読者をなめないで。
Don't underestimate your readers.
私たちはただ
We
読ん
aren't
でるだけです
just
読んで
reading. We read and we think.
100人に読ませれ
If
ば
I give my work to 100 people to read, 90 will actually be able to.
しかし意味がわか
However,
るのは
only
50
50 will actually understand what it means.
そしてそこから
And
さ
not
らに
even
考えら
20
れ
will
る
be
のは
will be
20
capable
も
of thinking beyond that.
よく噛んで
Yet,
飲み込
I
み
am
なさい。
asking if they chew before they swallow.
ただそれだけの
Nothing more
話
than
なの
that.
に。しかしあなたは
However,
どう
it
やら
seems that you are one of those precious 20 readers.
だからここへ
That's
招い
why I invited you here,
人の子
child of man. It was hard to actually like this Hachi Otoya person. However, though this forgery she had written was still in its first stages, it definitely felt as though he had something very familiar to the tales in those message bottles. Speaking metaphorically, one might call it a scent, an indescribable stern atmosphere like a stuffy library. The Beatrice who wrote the message bottles and Hachi Otoya are different people, and yet this has the same scent as that tale. I see. This is why some of those curious witch hunters are so intensely devoted to her. Their keen sense of smell was able to sniff out that familiar scent.
さ
Very well then.
どうぞ
Please,
続きを読んで
continue reading.
文字を追うあなた
There
の
could
顔
be
を見るの
nothing
も
more
何で
entertaining
も
than
楽し
watching
んで
your face as you glance over the
そ
words.
して
That
言葉を交わ
I'm
し合う
speaking with you.
物書きは感想に飢えて
I
いる
guess
じゃ
it's
ない
true that writers are always starving for opinions of their
でも
works.
申し訳ないけど
Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't have time to read all the way through this thick manuscript.
それより
More importantly, I came here to...
時間なんて
But you have all the time in the world. Both the second hand and the pendulum on the ornate clock behind Ashio had been moving the whole time. However, absolutely no time had passed for a while now. Only about 3 minutes had gone by since the time she had entered the room.
ね
See?
時間など
Time isn't something you have to worry about.
あなたが読み終わる
Time
まで
everywhere will leave you alone until you've
あな
finished
たを追い
reading.
立てない
ああ、じゃあ次のページ
Next page, Missy. Next page. Amakusa badgered me to turn the page, so I returned to the world of the tale once more. Why does her tale have the same Why does her tale have the same scent as Beatrice's, I wonder? Is it because she actually has reached the truth as she claims? Does this mean that anyone who knows the truth could create an endless number of message bottles? Is that what the cat box world is like? I see. Maybe she really is an endless witch herself. In fact, maybe anyone who knows the truth can become an endless witch. An endless tale created by endless witches. The 2 days starting on October 4th, 1986, where my family is being toyed with endlessly. I have to end it. I have to find a hint of the truth from within this story and end this endless tale. What do you think, Berto? How is this 6th game I've made? Well, you're not the type to give me an honest compliment anyway, are you? You'll probably say something like, not bad for an incompetent fool like you.
無能なりにそこそこ
Not
頑張ったで
bad
は
for
な
an
い
incompetent fool like you.
ゲームマスターの立場になってよ
Now
く
that
わか
I've
ったぜ
seen what it's like to be a game master, I understand
お前
everything.
も毎回
You really had to work hard during each and every game.
ゲームを作るのは楽
Creating
な
a
ことでは
game
ない
is not such an easy
よ
thing.
もやそなた
To think the day would come when we would both congratulate each other like this.
ゲームを作るのは楽なことではないよもやそなたとそれをねぎらい合う日が来ようとはな
Questo è quello che stava dicendo Fezarin prima con Enge, che Butler volendo può crearsi una Beatrice Peace e le può far dire quello che vuole, però non è la stessa cosa. Creating a game is not such an easy thing. To think the day would come when we both would congratulate each other like this.
違うこんなのはベアトじゃない
Isn't Beato? Butler slammed hard on the desk, but the piece Beato showed no reaction. After all, Butler hadn't ordered her to react. It was easy to revive that Beato as a piece. However, it would only move according to Butler's wishes. Having a conversation with this was no different from talking to himself. The Game Master could summon any kind of piece. He could move those pieces in any way he wanted, reigning as an absolute god. However, for that very reason, they were just pieces that made it unbelievably lonely and sad.
お前はたくさんの家具たち
So you created
い
many
ろいろな
kinds
物
of
語を紡
furniture,
ぎ出してきた
as well as several tales in the
俺は
past.
それを見て
When I saw that, I was sure
お
you
前
were
はきっ
having a
と
great
さぞ
time
や楽しい
doing
だろ
it.
うなと思っていた
だが違う
And that's wrong.
お前は
You were
信じられない
unbelievably
孤独だった
lonely.
んだ
お前にとって
It must have been such a relief for you to have an opponent in me who could actually go against you.
今の俺には
I'm painfully
痛い
aware
ほ
of
ど理
that
解で
now.
きる
That weird, polite
礼
Beat.
儀正しい確かに
She is you. I don't doubt that.
1000年前の
The way you were 1,000 years ago.
しかし別人だ
However, she is a separate person.
お前の姿にうり
The
二
way
つ
she
だから
looks just like you is what I really can't get over. I can't stand it.
しかし
However, she isn't a
コマでは
piece,
ないから
so she can go
俺の意
against
志
my
を背
will.
ける
コマのお前なんかより
Sure, unlike the
あ
piece
のベアトの
you,
方がはるかに
unlike
血
the
が通ってる
piece
だろ
you are, that Beato is much more
それ
alive.
は認める
I acknowledge
だ
that.
が違うん
But
だ
it's all wrong.
あれはお前じゃ
This
ない
isn't you.
お前の生き別れ
She's a
の妹が
completely
何か
separate person, like a long lost little sister or something.
むしろ
That's why.
どうしても受け入れ
Just
られない
can't accept her. As much as he hated this piece, Beato, Butler felt an even stronger dislike for the chick, Beato. Even after a whole 1,000 years, she still wouldn't become the original Beato. Even if she were ordered to act like the original Beato, it would just be an imitation. It was a very similar but separate person, and definitely not Beato herself. Then, in the previous game, Beato really did disappear for all eternity. Even after becoming the Game Master, there was no way to revive her.
笑えよ
Laugh.
ブザ
Laugh at how pathetic I am. Just give it a rest already. You're just an illusion who won't laugh unless I order it to, and who can't even continue to laugh unless I keep on ordering it. Just disappear. Brutto. Ok. Abbiamo tempo di leggere, abbiamo l'occasione anche... Oddio. Onde. Oh, Hope. Oh. Leggiamo un attimino i personaggi che non abbiamo letto ancora. Dagli human side abbiamo un Kinzo che è già grayed out. Quindi io posso già grayarlo out, il signor Kinzo. Donde sta Kinzo? Chuck. Kinzo è già grigio. Il mare uguale gente che cade dalle scogliere. Non sei completamente nel torto. Allora, qua mi sembra tutto normale. Secondo me Butler... No, Butler è la stessa cosa. No, Butler è la stessa cosa. Tutti quanti hanno lo stesso, sono abbastanza sicuro. Sì. Kinzo però è diverso. The aged head of the Ushiromiya family. He has already passed away, but Krause and Natsui's locked room illusion is making it look as though he is still alive. Therefore, there is no longer any need to include him in the number of people on this island. Without him, the number of people on this island drops from 18 to 17. However, the number returns to 18 after welcoming in the guest known as Erika. Qua non c'è, ma probabilmente arriverà. Poi, with the victory of the human side, she should have achieved victory as well, but she seemed unable to accept it. It appears that she is less concerned with who actually wins and cares more about how brutal an end might be reached. Therefore, hostile towards Butler as he tries to end this peacefully, she attempts to use Erika to ruin this final game. Because the end of the game has been assured with the victory of the human side, she no longer stands in opposition to anyone. As a previous game master, she also knows the truth and has taken a position of non-interference. Now she simply acts as a spectator, enjoying her beloved band's contorted expressions. The Witch of Truth, temporarily. She is also a detective who calls herself an intellectual participates in Butler's game as the human side player. She possesses numerous skills that qualify to call herself a detective, and these can be even elevated to the level of red truth when acknowledged by her master, Berncastel. When she wins, whether she wins or loses, this will be the last game, and there will be no further use for her. Qua è uguale, mi sa. Sì. E loro immagino pure. Sì. Butler, the endless sorcerer and the final game master. He is the ruler of the game board and the territory lord. To prove that he has won Beato's game, he must take on the position of game master. By succeeding in this, his victory will be acknowledged, and Beato's game will reach its end. Because he knows the whole truth, he exists on a higher plane than all others. Beatrice, a new witch reborn from the rules. She has not lived for 1,000 years, and her behavior is vastly different from how it once was. She is a witch who does not even know how to use magic. However, she has no fear of magic circles or spider webs. It is almost as though she's just a human. She adores Butler and considers it her purpose to devote herself to him. La cosa delle spider webs era successa in episodio 2? Era in episodio 2 la cosa delle spider webs che Shannon aveva preso non mi ricordo con cosa, con la scopa delle ragnatele, e aveva fatto scomparire Beatrice in quella maniera. Qua niente, Gap, Ro9 sono gli altri. Ah no, giusto, era Canon, giusto, ha fatto scomparire Canon con le ragnatele, c'hai ragione. Vero. Vabbè, qua è tutto uguale. Angel Side. Featherin Augustus Aurora, the majestic witch of theater going, drama and spectating. She is tired of a life after 1,000 years and constantly repeats a cycle of life and death. In the past, she served as the master for numerous games as a legendary witch, but her legend, glory, and memory have already disappeared into the past and have been forgotten. Only the solemn medal she wears on her chest retains those memories. No, questa l'abbiamo letta, vabbè. The horseshoe-shaped object floating around her head is a memory aid device. It records her name, appearance, and other aspects of her personality. She is so old she would not be able to preserve her own individuality without it. Ushiromiya Enge, the final descendant of the Ushiromiya family 12 years into the future. In the middle of her journey to reach Rokkenjima, while evading pursuers from the Sumadera family, she is sucked into the world of an impossible memory. She reached several truths in the past games, and possesses enough power to represent observers. Enge siamo noi, che leggiamo. It is said that many witches are fond of her bad attitude, and many of them even have an eye on becoming her master. Questo è uguale, il nostro Makusa è lo stesso. On Rokkenjima, this day, or rather this time around, was the same as any other. A typhoon would be coming very soon. The clouds hadn't yet grown thick, but they were moving quickly. Solito Natsui che non sa, basta guardare le facce, abbiamo capito tutto. The only thing on Natsui's mind was the plan to cover up Kinzo's absence this year as well. Kraus appeared to have suffered a stomachache from the stress and was resting in his room. Arrivano i guest. Ah no, il contrario, Jessica and Kumasawa had left in a boat to go shopping and greet the incoming relatives on Nijima. The servants had been busy since the early morning in preparation for the family conference, the greatest event of the year. Shannon and Canon were getting the guest house ready. Shouldn't the guest rooms in the mansion be more than enough to all the relatives? Good point. This is a pain to clean up. It is a pain to clean up here as well. Even so, I like cleaning the guest house. Yeah, it's nice and quiet without Madame and all of the annoying servants. Shannon gave a non-committal smile as she performed a detailed examination of the guest room. Did we forget to clean anything? Do we need to restock anything? She diligently gave the room one final check over. You checked everything thoroughly last night too, didn't you? You really are dedicated. It's on days like this when you tend to get pranked if you're careless. You can never find important things when you need them. And things that were supposed to be closed turned out to be open. That's because you're too careless. You don't pay attention while you work. That's why you're helping me check. Thanks. There's nothing to thank me for. If you were a bit more alert, I wouldn't have to help at all. But the truth is, you just want to be with me, right? You're such a kid. That's not it at all. It's all because you've been so ecstatic about George-sama lately. You're messing up so much, I can't let you out of my sight. Canon-kun, let's chat a bit. We can't do that now, we're working. You keep making fun of me and George-sama. But how is it going between you and Jessica-sama? Nothing's going on in particular. If you have time to talk about that, then let's just finish this. Let's just finish this. But Canon was very obviously trying to change the subject. So Shannon snuck up behind him and pushed him down onto the bed. Why did you turn down Milady when she asked you to go with her to welcome the relatives? Because I have work to do.
嘘
Liar.
仕事なんか
You don't actually have any work at all. Shannon and Canon had switched roles. Normally, Canon was the one in control, but when it came to romance, it was the opposite. As Shannon had said, Jessica and Canon were supposed to have been the ones to go greet the relatives at the Nijima harbor. However, Canon had suddenly claimed that he had work to do, so Kumasawa had gone instead. Canon didn't have any work to do. Shannon knew
お
this.
嬢様
Milady told me.
文化祭の時の
Despite
ことを
everything that happened after the cultural
やっぱり
festival,
カノン君
her
が好き
feelings
だ
for you haven't changed,
僕は
even though I'm furniture.
そうだね
That's right.
私も家具だ
I'm
ね
furniture too.
なのに
And yet,
姉さんは人
you're
間
in
と
love
恋を
with a
し
human,
できるわけなんて
even
ない
though that's never going to be possible.
そうかな
You think so?
そう決めつけてる
Maybe
から
thinking it that way
私たちは
is
家
what
具なんじゃない
makes
かな
us furniture.
僕はジェシカお嬢様のこと
I don't have any special feelings for Milady
お
Jessica.
使いする
I
後ろに
only think
これ
of
以上
her
の
as
こと
the
しか思って
daughter
ない
of the family we serve.
本当に
Really?
本当さ
Really?
何
What?
私ね
You know,
ひょっとすると今夜
there is a chance that
George-sama
George-sama
に求婚され
will
るかもしれない。
propose to me tonight. Shannon wore an incredibly peaceful smile on her face, but Canon could tell that there was no way she'd let him change the subject. Canon realized that she must have made him help out here in the guest house in order to talk to him about this, and he clicked his tongue softly.
家具のくせに
You really think you can marry a human even though you're furniture?
できると思う
I think I can.
無理だね
That's
どうして
impossible. Why?
ジョージ様の描く未来の夢を
That dream future that George-sama has imagined for the two of you is something that you can never give him.
それは
Well,
僕たちは人間
we
じゃない
aren't humans.
それに劣る
We are furniture, inferior to them.
ジョージ様は姉さん
George-sama
を人
only
間だと思い込ん
thinks
でるだ
that
け
you are human. Well, that is
それはそうかもしれ
true,
ないけど。
but
今日までよく騙し通してこれた
I'm
ことだろう
impressed that you've managed to trick him for this long.
そうやって
Do you really think you can keep tricking him like this forever?
自分が家具である
Even though you still haven't been able to tell him that you're furniture.
家具とか人間とか
Being furniture, being human,
そんなの関係ない
has nothing to do with this.
ジョージ様は
I believe that George-sama
私
will
の全て
accept
を受け止
all
め
of
てくれ
me.
ると思うの
それを確か
And
める勇
yet,
気もない
you
く
don't
せに
have the courage to check and make sure.
私ね
You
求
know,
婚
I'm planning on
受けてみようと思うの
saying yes. As Shannon looked up at the ceiling, she spoke of the imagined future that she and George would create. Though some anxiety over the future appeared on her face, so did joy from discovering what it was like to live with love. As Canon watched this vivid dream he was being shown, he knew that none of his words would reach Shannon anymore.
好きにしたらいい
You can do what you want.
姉さんは一度
Once
許して
you've said something,
どこまでも頑固だから
you're incredibly stubborn.
私の
I want to live
生
life
き
my
たいよう
own
に
way.
生きてみたいもう
I've decided to stop worrying
そういうのに怯えるの
about
は
who's furniture and who's a human. Canon walked over the window silently. He saw the rose garden filled with boring grey flowers in bloom. He understood that Shannon was acting above her place, and he knew that her tale had no chance of a happy ending. However, he also knew that now Shannon had made her decision. No words of his could change his mind.
なら
Her mind.
僕が言えるこ
In
とだっ
that
て
case, it doesn't matter
何も
what
な
I
いよ
say.
やめろと言っても
If
姉
I
さん
tell
は
you
聞か
to
ない
stop, you won't
好
listen.
きにすればと
If I
言えば
tell you to do what you want, you'll do what you
なんで
want.
僕にそんな
Why
話
are
をす
you
るんだ
talking to me about
僕
this?
の答えなんて
It's not like you care what my
姉さんは何も
response
求めて
is.
ないじゃないか
私が知りた
What
い
I
のは
want to know
カノン君の
is how
お
you
嬢様
feel
への
about
気
me,
持ちな
lady.
の
僕は姉さんた
I
ちと
have
何の関
nothing
係
to
も
do
ないよ
with the two of you.
カノン君は
Do you really
本当にお嬢
feel
様のことは
absolutely nothing
何とも思
for
って
me,
いないの
lady?
思ってないって
No, I
何
don't.
度言ってる
As I keep telling you.
嘘
Liar.
どうして嘘だ
Why do you think that's a lie?
わかるもん
I know.
姉さんだもん
I'm your big sister.
わからないよ
You don't
僕
know.
の気持ちな
You
んて
can't know what I'm feeling.
わかるよ
I do.
カノン君のことな
I
ら
know everything about you,
私は何でもわかる
Kanon-kun.
本当にわかって
If
る
you really do know,
どう
then
して
why
聞く
are
んだ
you
よ
asking?
姉さんはジョージ
Your
様
heart and
も
head
う胸も頭
are
もいっぱいじ
already
ゃないか
full with your feelings for George-sama. And that single-hearted devotion is what I love about you.
だから
That's why
僕なりに応援
I'm
してるんじゃない
rooting
か
for you in the only way I can. You know that.
そうでなかったら
Otherwise, if even I,
僕だって
even I,
僕だって
even I
お嬢様を好きになりたかっ
would
た
have loved to fall for me, lady. Kanon finally turned to face her, honestly and openly telling her his real emotions. That was what Shannon had wanted to hear. And having heard it, she closed in even further on Kanon's true feelings.
そんな言い方じゃダメ
No, you can't word it that way.
許さない
I won't let you.
じゃあどうすればいいんだ
Then
よ
what do you want from me?
なんて言えばいいんだよ
What am I supposed to say?
好きになりたかっ
Don't
た
try
なんて
to
言い
dodge
方
by
でごまかさ
I
ない
would
で
have loved to fall for her.
Kanon-kun
All
の
you
素直な
need
気
to
持
do
ち
is
を
honestly
その
tell
ま
me
ま
what
口
you
にすれば
really
いいんだ
feel.
僕には眩しすぎるん
Lady,
だよお嬢様が
it's too dazzling for me.
太陽のよう
The
で
way she lives
生き
is
様が眩し
blinding
すぎ
like
て
the sun.
そんなお嬢様が好
That's
き
what I
なんだ
love about her.
そんなお嬢様
I
に手を
was
差し
so
伸べられ
happy
て
when Milady stretched out her
共に
hand
歩
and
こうと言
asked
って
me
も
to
らえて
walk
嬉し
with
かった
her. No,
嬉しいんだ
I still am happy. Oh,
好きなんだよね
you love her, don't you?
ああ好きさ
Yes, I do.
お嬢様が大好きだ
I love Milady. Finally, Kanon confessed his feelings in their entirety. In fact, by saying it aloud, he finally understood how he truly felt. As passionate tears swelled up in his eyes, Kanon finally accepted it. He couldn't stop the tears from dripping down
お
his
嬢様
face.
も僕も
Milady
こ
was
の島に閉
exactly
じ込めら
like
れ
me,
て
locked up
何の
on
希望もなく生
Rokkenjima
きて
and
る
living
のは
without
全く同
any
じだっ
hope
た
at all.
なのにお嬢様
And
は
yet,
自らの
she
道
was
を自
able
ら
to
照ら
light
し
her own path and
自らの
create
足
an
で
own
運命を切
fate.
り開くんだそれが
She
眩しく
was
て
so dazzling that
羨ましくて
I envied her.
お嬢様と一緒にな
I
ら
felt as though if I
こん
could
なみす
be
ばらしい
with
自
her,
分じゃない
I could find my true self instead of the
本当の自分を
peaceful
見つけ
person
ら
I
れそうな
am
気が
now.
して
お嬢様の告白を
And you
拒絶
turned
して
down Milady's confession,
悲しかった
but you said,
悲しかった
I
自
was.
分につく嘘が
I never realized that lying to yourself could be so sad, so painful, so excruciating.
そして僕のそんな
And
嘘
I
が
just couldn't forgive myself for hurting Milady with that
たま
lie.
らなく許せなかったそんな自分に
I believed that I didn't have any right to fall in love ever again.
あるよ
But you do.
恋の資格はね
The right to love
自分だ
is
けが
something
与えられ
only
る
you
の
can give yourself.
家具だからダメ
Being
とか
furniture or
そん
not
な
has
の関
nothing
係
to
な
do
い
with it.
ダメだって自分で
If
決
you
めたら
tell yourself
も
no,
うダメなの
then it'll never happen.
決めつけちゃダメ
You mustn't think that
だ
way.
から私は与え
That's
た
why
よ
I gave myself
この身の
input
程
and
知らずの家
furniture
具
that
の
I am, the
恋の
right
資
to
格を
fall in love.
だからカノン
And
君
you
だっ
have
て
it
ある
too.
よ
恋をする資格が
The right to fall in love?
あ
Yes.
なたにあげられ
If
ない
you
なら
can't give it to yourself,
私があげる
then I will.
ありがとう
Thank you.
やっと
I feel as though I can
見られ
finally
る気がする
see the sea.
きっと
I'm certain
ジョージ様は今夜
tonight George-sama
私に
will
求婚す
propose
る
to
と
me.
思う求婚を
When he does,
私
I
は
will
受けて
accept.
この島を出
I
て
intend to leave this island and start a new life in a new world.
それが
If
姉
that's
さ
the
んが
path
選んだ道
you've
だというな
chosen,
ら僕に
then I have no say in the matter.
この島を出て
I'll leave this island and I'll never return again.
この島へは二度と帰らないカノン君とは
It will mean saying farewell to you too, Kanon-kun.
そうだね
You're right.
僕たちは
We won't see each other
お
again,
別
will
れ
we?
だね
もし
If
カノン君が
If you do love me,
心の
lady,
底
from the
からお
bottom
嬢
of your
様を愛
heart,
していて
and if you can honestly say that your feelings are at least as strong as the ones I have for George-san,
私は
then you and I need to settle
決
this.
着をつけなきゃならない
姉さん
Listen,
それがお互いの
this
ため
way is best for the both of us.
カノン君の思いを
Don't give up on your feelings
私を
on
理由に
account of
諦め
me,
ないで
僕のわがままが
even though my selfishness
Nesa-san
might
幸せを
keep you from your
傷つけるかもし
happiness.
れないのに
私も
I am fully aware of it.
私の幸
My
せが
happiness is
カノ
hurting
ン
you
君を
as
傷
well.
つけることを
We have no choice but to hurt each other. As Canon watched Shannon from behind, he was struck by her strength and the sisterly love she showed, in still thinking of him despite everything.
姉さん、僕は姉さんと一緒で
Nesan, living with you made me happy.
私もだよ
Me too.
君がいてく
I
れたから
wouldn't have lasted this
今日ま
long
で頑張れ
without
た
you.
だから
And that's why I was
ジョー
able
ジ
to
さん
meet
とも出会
George-san.
えた
Yeah.
僕も姉さん
And
が
I
教えて
wouldn't
くれ
have
たから
realized how dazzling Milady
お
is
嬢様の
if
眩
it
さに気を
weren't
つけた
for you.
私は
I won't abandon my emotions.
その気持ちだ
I'll
けを
focus only on my feelings and ignore everything else. And I won't look away when I trample over your heart.
僕も
Me too. I won't use you as an
自分
excuse
の気持ちを
to hide the way I
も
feel.
う偽らない。
私の恋が実って
Whether my love bears
君
fruit
の恋が実
or
って
yours does,
私たちは
let's each agree to celebrate the other. Yes,
約束する。
I
そ
promise.
して僕が勝った
And
ら
if I win,
お嬢様を愛し
I will love Milady and
姉
treasure
さんを
you.
大切にする。
ありがとう
Thank you.
でも
But if I
私が
win,
勝ったら君と島を忘
I'll
れて
forget you and this
ここを
island
永遠に出て
and
いく
leave this place forever. Yes,
勝ったら
whichever of us wins,
自分の恋に全力を。
that person will pursue their love with all they've got,
たとえそれが
even if we know that love will be unrequited. Yes,
私たちは
after all,
家具じゃない
we are furniture no more. Oof. The boat carrying the relatives docked at Rokkenjima's harbor. They left the boat one by one, making fun of Butler. Goda wasn't the only one to greet them. Canon was there too.
皆様
It's been quite some time, everyone. Allow me to welcome you to Rokkenjima.
長旅
I hope that your long journey went smoothly.
六軒島へようこそ。
Welcome to Rokkenjima.
そうそう
Ah, good, good. Goda complimented the Canon in a whisper. Canon ignored this, looking just a little sour, and continued to greet the incoming relatives.
バトラ君は
This is the first time for you meeting Goda-san and Canon-kun, isn't it, Butler?
マリアもバトラ
It's my first time meeting Butler too.
ゴーダさんは
Goda-san, a splendid chef.
この島に来る
Yes, the only reason anyone ever want to come onto this island.
光栄でございま
I
す
am most
バト
honored.
ラ様
Butler-sama, and I do hope that you look forward to your meals during your stay.
そりゃ楽しみ
Oh,
だ
I
ぜ
can't wait.
よろしく
I'll be looking forward to it.
ガノン君もお久しぶ
Good
り
to
ね
see you again,
今日は
Canon-kun.
元気そう
You
ね
seem to be in high spirits today.
よかっ
That's great.
そうでしょう。
You think so?
たそうね
Oh yes.
顔
Your
が青くなる
face is looking brighter today.
血色がいいというか
I can't tell if it's your complexion or if your gaze looks a bit more gallant. Must be a growing phase.
そうして少年
That's how
は
a boy becomes a man.
普段のあんたは
You usually look as though you're about to pass out from anemia.
してるのに
Diretta Eva, eh?
今日は少し
You're a
違
bit
う
different today.
正気がある
You got some vigor.
男子は3日
A boy can change a lot in just 3 days.
カノン君
I
も
guess this
少し
means
ず
that
つ
even
たくましくなってる
Canon's-kun is
っていう
getting a
こと
bit
やな
more manly.
からかわれてないわよ
We aren't making fun of you,
み
okay?
んな褒めてる
We're
の
all complimenting you. Canon had sworn that starting today would start changing the way he lived, bit by bit. However, he had only meant to change within himself, and he hadn't expected that it would show on the outside. He was a bit shocked to hear that his expression had changed so much, that people had apparently noticed as soon as he opened his mouth. No, maybe the real surprise should have been that his normal expression looked so incredibly sullen in comparison. Goda led the way up to the guest house. Kanon brought up the rear, helping to carry some of Kumasawa's shopping. Does my face really look that bright today? It looks the way. It looks that way to me as well. Is something good happen? Even Kumasawa was saying it. Kanon, unable to see what his own face looked like, hung his head in embarrassment. When they reached the rose garden, they could see the others entering the guest house. Then he saw Jessica running towards him from there. Is even Milady Jessica going to say that I look in a good mood today? Kanon hung his head even deeper, and so, almost as though he couldn't control himself, Kanon spoke first. Do I really look that different? Huh? Well, you know, you aren't usually the type to come out and say hello on your own accord. That's probably why everyone was surprised. I apologize for not coming with you earlier. Milady. Oh, don't worry about that. I'm the one who's sorry for asking you to come all the way out to Nijima with me just to meet everyone. I know how busy you must have been today. You must be today, I didn't have anything particular to do. You were just so dazzling. Mamma mia, Kanon! Le decisioni irrevocabili, Perché stai dicendo le cose apertamente. Adesso esplode adesso. Jessica adesso fa esplode. Diventa una teiera e esplode in diretta. E questa è la first Twilight comunque. So you were just so dazzling that I couldn't bear to be with you. I was just weak. Jessica faltered, uncertain what Kanon was talking about. However, she realized that this was something too important to be laughed off. Something happened, Kanon-kun. Shannon says she's going to get married. I see. So Jordan-san is going to propose to her this year. Jessica thought that this change in Kanon's appearance was probably caused by a change in his state of mind. She thought he was sad that he and Shannon would soon be parting ways. Kanon realized that Jessica was probably thinking this, so he spoke to her clearly and honestly, because he wanted her to know. I had long decided that if Nesa never quit, I would stop working here as well. I know. So, are you going to quit too? I'm not sure anymore. I feel that if I quit, I might again lose sight of something that your dazzling sunlight revealed to me. Jessica was stunned, unable to understand what he was saying. However, she did realize that he was trying to tell her something important, and so she was able to accept that his next words were neither a lie nor a joke. Vi giuro che non mi ricordavo queste cose. Mi commuovo. Milady Jessica, I love you. I love you too. You live your life like the sun, and I want to try walking the path alongside you. I have the feeling that with you, I'll be able to get away from the part of myself that regarded me with contempt and called me furniture. You aren't furniture, Kanon-kun. And you weren't born just so you could become a servant. A boy your age should have the right to enjoy life much, much more. I'm the one who's dazzled.
カノン君が眩しくて
You're so dazzling I can hardly see.
これが
These
偽らされ
are
僕の
my
気持ち
genuine
です
feelings.
それを
I'm sorry for trying to hide them for so long.
僕の臆病さが
I'm apologizing for hurting you on that day in my cowardice.
いいよ
That's
そ
okay.
の言葉だけで
Just hearing you say that
私は
makes me
嬉しい
happy.
だから
So,
僕はお嬢様といつ
in
も一緒
order
にいる
that I can continue
覚
to
悟
be
をや
with
めよう
you,
と思います
I plan to stop being furniture.
僕に
I ask you
その
that you
ための
give
時間を
me
ください
some time to do that.
最後に
Please forgive this
その
last
弱さを
peak
許
of
してください
a bit of weakness.
弱さなんてとんで
There's
もない
nothing weak about
カノ
you.
ン君は見せてく
You've
れたよ
shown me.
今までの自分
You've
と
shown me
決別したい
incredible
っていう
courage by saying you want to change yourself from the way you used to be.
だから私は応援
So
した
I'll
いし
support you until the end, and I won't rush you until you're ready.
私が太陽になって君の
If,
道を
if
照らせ
I'm
る
the sun lighting your path,
私だって
that's because I wanted to shine more brightly than anyone else, that you'd look so that you'd only look at me.
君がいなかったら
Without you, I would never have become like the
だ
sun.
から
So I'll
もう
wait
ずっと
as long as needed.
ありがとうお嬢様
Thank you, milady.
お嬢様は
I don't want to be
もう
milady
嫌だな
to you anymore.
名前で
May I
呼んでもいいんですか
call you by your name? Sure.
二人
But only when we are alone, okay?
じゃないと
Otherwise, it might make things difficult
迷
for
惑
you.
をかけるかもしれないし
そうですね
Good point.
姉さんたちも
Nesan and
そうしてるらしい
George-sama are doing the same, the same it seems.
シャノンが婚約するって話に
If
ならな
Shannon hadn't told you about the engagement, you wouldn't have said what you've just said right now, right? Canon hung his head and at loss for words for some times. But it was true. If Shannon hadn't told him about the engagement, he probably wouldn't have been having this conversation at this moment.
はい
No, I wouldn't.
だからこそ真
Her
剣に考え
words
ることが
allowed
でき
me
ました
to think seriously.
そんなこと言っちゃって
Come on.
シャノンの
You
話
heard
を
about
聞いて
Shannon and you
恋に
wanted
してみ
her
たく
to
なっち
see
ゃった
what love felt like yourself, right?
はい
Yes. That's a pretty straight answer. Well,
私もシャノンたちを
when I watched those two, I was pretty envious myself. In truth, the real reason was different for both of them. They have been shown the courage that was needed to confess to the one they loved. This was the reason for both Canon and Jessica.
僕は
So,
なんと
what should I call you?
ジェシカがいいな
Just Jessica would be nice.
呼びつけは
Just saying like that would be a bit embarrassing.
じゃさん付けでも
Then
いい
you
ね
can use some at least first.
言ってみて
Why don't you try it?
ほらほら
Come on.
ジェシカさん
Yeah, that'll do it for now.
だから私も
And I like to call you by your name,
名前で呼び
Canon-kun.
たいカノンじゃなくて
You have a real name
本当
beside
の名前
Canon,
があるんでしょ
don't you?
きっとカノン
I
の
bet
た
he
だ
has a
の名前だと
Ka
思う
in it, like Canon does.
なんだろう
What could it be?
ヨシアと
Oh! Madonna, che bomba che ho tirato, scusate, ho fatto esplodere qualche frammento. My name is Yoshia.
どういう字
Scusate. Scusa. How do you write it? Jessica tried tracing out various characters on the palm of her hand. Then Canon used his fingers to write out his name in her hand. Oh, that's cute.
これで
Like this.
ヨシアと呼びます
Yoshia. Ho fatto... Scusate. Questi guanti sono intrisi di potere, sono anormali, come si dice, sono paranormali, sono SCP, hanno fatto un botto. Ho detto, ho fatto esplodere qualche frammento di qualche universo di Umineko.
ヨシア
So you're Yoshia-kun. That's a
いい
great
名前だ
name.
ね 私の変な名前と違って
Totally better than my weird name.
そんなことありません。
That's not
お
true.
嬢様のジェシ
Your
カって名前
name,
だって
Jessica, is just as.
それもう一回言って
Say that again.
え
Your name, Jessica, is.
もう一回
One more time.
お嬢様のジェシカって名前だって。
Your name, Jessica, is just as.
何か
Is something wrong?
なんでもないよ
It's nothing. Oh, my boss.
ありがとう
Thanks.
よしや
The red flowers of the rose garden seemed to celebrate the two lovers whose feelings had finally connected. The scene was watched by one not human who gazed out quietly from beneath the rose garden arbor. Chi? Chi è che li visiona? Ah, Beatrice. Ah, la Beatrice Chic che probabilmente sta cercando di capire che cos'è l'amore. Guarda, l'ho buttata lì, ma secondo me... Cioè, conoscendo quello che ci è stato dato di lei, secondo me vuole capire. Come to think of it, those two had never called each other by their names until now. Jessica hadn't known Canon's true name. Canon hadn't called Jessica by her name. By calling someone by their name, people acknowledge the worth of that person's soul. That is why names are sacred. Receiving permission to speak one means that your soul has been acknowledged.
だからお父様は
Is that why
名前を呼んで
Father
ほ
wants
しい
me
と
to call him by his name? No, that's probably wrong. When Father sees me, he reminds me of the other me, the past me. I'm sure he called that me. I'm sure that me called Father by his name. However, that probably doesn't mean Father would be happy to hear me call him by his name. After all, I am me and not the Beatrice my father knows well. What can I do to help Father? How can I be useful to him? That's the only reason I was born. Hanging her head, Beatrice sat alone in the Golden Lens arbor that was next to the rose garden. This scene was watched by the witch of theater going and her Miko as they sat across from each other.
かわいそうな子ね。
Quindi c'è tipo Canon e Jessica nel Rose Garden che stanno parlando e fanno finalmente i due piccioncini, e poi dalla Golden Land ci sta Beatrice Chic che li sta guardando, e poi dal mondo da fuori ci sta Enge e Featherin che stanno guardando tutto. Diversi livelli proprio di metanarrazione. E poi noi stiamo leggendo loro, volendo, se vogliamo mettere anche questa cosa.
そなたがベアトに同情するとは思わなかった。
I never thought you'd feel compassion for
こ
Beato.
のベアトをかつての
It'd
ベ
be
アトと
too
同一人
cruel
物と
to
いう
call
のは
this Beato and the former Beato the same person.
これは全くの別人
They're
じゃない。
completely different people. Vero, Luke? It may be that by the rules this Beato is the Beato. However, saying that would be horribly unfair to
か
her.
つての公的史を蘇らせ
Butler
て
must have
くれる
been
のは
very depressed to have revived his former adversary and have things end up this way.
お兄ちゃんの絶望も
I
少
can
しは
sort of understand Onichan's despair.
この子の気
However, I
持ち
can
もわかるの。
understand how this child feels as well.
人は決して
No person can become a replacement from another,
それがたとえ
not even the past version of themselves. Compared to the young boy and girl who had found new version of themselves and called each other by their true names, this witch looked very feeble. The witch knew that she was an illusion created in the image of a person she once was, and she also knew that it would only hurt Butler to try and pretend to be that person.
それでもこのベアトは
And even so,
バトラーの
this
役に立ちたいと
Beato
思う
wants to be useful to
け
Butler.
なげな話だ。
How admirable.
それがベアトリー
Is
チェ
that
と
the
いう魔
person
女
of the
の
witch
いいの
known as Beatrice?
彼女はそうだと自称
That
している。
is what she claims.
自分はバトラーの
She
役に
says
立つ
that
ため
she
に生
was
まれてき
created to be of service to Butler.
たお兄ちゃんのために生まれて
So
きた
the
ベアト
Beato
は
who once who was born for Onichan's sake eventually commits a serial
お
murder
兄ちゃんに永遠
and
の
drags
拷問と
Onichans
称
into a
して
bizarre
おかしなゲーム
game
に
she
引
calls
きずり込む
eternal torture.
意味わかんないわ
I don't get it.
千年を経れば
I believe
人は
you
別
also
人にもなり
understand
得
that
る
one can
そな
become
た
a
も理
different
解している
person
は
over
ず
1,000 years. At the very least, Beatrice was once a pure creature who was born for Butler's sake. It was very clear that in her current feeble state, she does not possess any of the courage or the motivation needed to bring about those horrific serial murders. If so, that means the sinister witch we all know must have changed during the 1,000 years since her birth.
千年とか偉そうな単語が
We
よく出て
keep
くるけど
getting this 1,000 years business, but I get the feeling that those words are just a metaphor for a really long time in the world of witches.
神の世界に近づけば近づくほど
As you
に
get
時
closer
間の
to the
概念は
world
曖
of
昧になる
gods, the concept of time becomes increasingly vague.
6年も千年となるし
6 years can become 1,000, and 1,000 years can be nothing more than a quick nap.
ほんの2週間の月日で
Once
さえも
one can fit an eternity long enough to be deserving of the title 100-year-old witch in mere 2 weeks. In other words, the pure Beato transformed into the cruel Beato during those 6 years that could be called 1,000. Che non mi ricordavo lo dicessero così direttamente. Io stavo già cominciando a pensare come posso fare in modo, cosa posso dire per cercare di aiutare i ragazzi per arrivare al fatto che con 6 anni cioè che 1.000 anni possono essere siano in realtà i 6 anni che sono passati. No, detto, cioè così, va bene. 6 anni, diretto, va bene. Diretto, ok, va bene. Mi aspettavo un po' più di subtlety, però va bene, diretto. Does that mean that something bad happened during 6 years that made her hate Onichan?
納得いかないわ
That doesn't make sense.
その6年間
During those 6 years, Onichan not only stayed away
後ろ
from
宮家の席から抜
Rokkenjima,
けてさえいるのよ
he even stopped using the Ushiromiya
その
name.
変化に
Onichan had
お兄ちゃんは何の関
nothing
係
to
も
do
ない
with her change.
全くの逆恨みだわ
Her hatred must be totally misguided.
Oh, おや、こちらにおいででしたか。
So this is where you
お
were.
紅茶でもおいで
Shall I
しま
make
しょ
you
うか。
some black tea?
熊沢さん
Kumasawa-san,
知りたいことがあります
there's something I'd like to know.
はいはい。
Very
何でしょ
well.
うか。
What is it?
私は
Mm,
ベアト
my
リーチェと
name
いう
is
名前
Beatrice,
なんですよね
isn't it?
うん
Oh
そうで
yes,
すとも
that is correct.
お嬢様は
You
ベ
are
アトリーチェ様でござい
Beatrice-sama,
ま
milady.
すとも。
でも
However,
お父
the
様が口にす
Beatrice
る
that
ベアトリ
father
ーチェという
talks
人
about
物は
isn't me.
私のことではありません
それは
Well,
お父様は私
I
に
think father
その
wanted
人であっ
me
て
to
ほしかっ
be
たよう
that
に思います
person.
だから
So no
私が
matter
その
how
人に
much
ど
I
れほど似
look
ていても
like her, I am a different
別の
person.
人間なので失望されたの
I
で
think
はな
that
いでしょうか
I think that might be why he's disappointed in me.
そんなことはございませんよ。
That isn't
お
true.
嬢様はお
You
嬢
are
様
you,
ベアトリーチ
Beatrice
ェ
Sama
様ご
herself.
自身ですとも。新しく
You
お
have
生まれ
merely
変わり
lost
にな
your
る
memory of the
以
past
前の
after
記憶
being
を
newly
忘れてしま
reborn.
っただけでございますよ。たとえ記憶を
Even
なくさ
without
れよ
your
うと
memory, you
お
are
嬢
still
様は
Beatrice
ベア
Sama.
トリーチェ様、親方様
You
の
are the
愛され
same
るお方
person
と
whom the
同
master
一人物
loves.
でございますとも。
その記憶というのは
So
どう
then,
やれば取り戻すこ
how
と
can
が
I
できますか
regain those memories?
それは
Beato looked at Kumasawa with hopeful eyes, as though praying that she would tell her the way. Kumasawa averted her gaze unhelpfully, as though trying to say that she would if only such a way existed.
取り戻すこと
If
が
I
できない
can't
なら
regain them,
せめて
can't you at least tell me what kind of person the Beatrice father loved was?
教えてください。
That's something I can't tell you, but
私はお父
I
様の
was
ために生
born
まれ
for
てきまし
father's
た。
sake.
だから
So I want to be the golden witch Beatrice the father desires.
ベアトリーチェになりたいんです。
Beatrice. Baby's first read.
私に魔法は使
I
えません。
can't use magic.
でも
But if the witch father desired could use it, then I
それ
will
を学び
learn.
ましょう。私は
I want to become the
お父
witch he
様の望
desires.
む魔女になります。それが
That's the only way I can repay father for creating me.
けなげじゃない。
That's admirable. That's
1000
admirable.
年を間違えなくて
Without the 1000 years gone wrong, she really is an incredible kid.
魔女のヒナ
A chick of a
なかな
witch.
か面白きかない
Very interesting.
気に入ったぞエンジ
I've taken a liking to her, Angel.
そのヒナの
I shall
娘に
allow this chick to make use of my study.
魔女の世界へ
Let
帰
us
る
open the
扉
door
を
which
開い
leads
てやるが
back to
よ
the
かろう
world
ぞ
of witches.
彼女自身に
So
かつて
you're
の
going to
彼女の
make her
物語を
read
朗
aloud
読
the
させよう
story
というわ
about
け
her
ね。
previous self.
なるほど。
Yes,
私も知り
I
たい。
want to know
黄
too.
金の魔女
The
ベアトリ
tale
ー
of
チ
the
ェを作る
golden
物
witch
語。
Beatrice. The tale of how the golden witch Beatrice was created. Porca.
いいでしょう。
Very well.
あなたが望む
If you wish it,
扉を再
then
び
let
開
us
き
open
ま
the
す。
door once again.
熊沢さん。
A spray of gold welled up around them. It was a cloud of gold butterflies. Lo sapevo. With a golden flash, the form of the old lady transformed into that of a witch in a dress.
あなたの進むべき
You
道
must choose the path that you are to walk down.
それはおそら
Let us call it
くバラの
a path of roses.
美しく咲き
The
誇ったバラ
beautifully
が
blooming
あなたを
roses
祝
may
福するかも
celebrate
しれ
you,
ないし
and they may
その
torment you
陰
with
で
their
あな
thorns.
たを苛むかもしれないしかしそ
But
れで
even
も
so,
あな
it
た
is a
がい
path
つか
that
た
you
どった
once walked down.
その結果
You may pass
同
through
じ
the
千
same
年を経て
thousand
も
years.
異なる千
You
年を
may
経ても
pass through a different thousand years.
望むなら
If you wish,
道を引き
you may
返しても
even
いい
return back the way you came.
進みます。
I'll move forward.
私は
I don't want to spend
この
a
庭で
thousand
1000年
years in this
お茶を
garden
飲んでいるだけで過ごしたくないん
drinking
です。お父様のために
I, Beatrice,
このベアトリ
was
ーチェは生
born
まれて
for
きま
father's
した。
sake.
だから
So I want to
お父
live
様のため
for
に
father's sake.
教えてください。
Please tell me about the golden witch. The great witch spread her arms, communicating Beatrice's unbending determination toward the brilliant heavens. At that moment, a brilliant light covered the two of them, and before they knew it, they were in a strange study. Study? Quello di Kinzo? No. Ah, nello studio di Fezarin. There sat the great old witch who was the master of these archives, along with her Miko. Virgilia gave a deep and elegant bow.
拝謁
It is the greatest of honors to be in your presence.
尊厳なる感
Lady
激と戯
Fezarina
曲と冒
Augustus
険の魔
Aurora.
女フェザリーヌ・アウグストゥス・アウローラ卿
The majestic witch of theater going, drama, and spectating.
表を上げよ人の子
Raise your head, child of
そ
man.
の娘に
I shall give that child the privilege of browsing my archives as she pleases for a time.
我が巫女エンジ
Angel, my Miko,
その方に世話を
see that
命
she has no trouble.
はいはい。
Sure,
お任せよ
sure, as you
我が主
wish, my
素
master.
直に
You
そな
could
たの
just say
物
that you
語を
want
見たい
her
と
to
言えば
see her story, you know? Look Back si chiama questa host. Molto bella. You could just say that you want her to see her story, you know?
感激の魔女の
Miko of the Witch of Theater going.
ベアトリーチェ
I
をお
leave
預けし
Beatrice in your care.
しく
Please to meet you.
あんたのなろうとしている
That
ベアトリー
Beatrice
チェ
you're trying to become
彼
was
女なりに何かを苦
suffering
しんでいる
from something.
少なくとも
At the very
今のあな
least,
たは
you've been released
その
from
何か
that
から解き
for
放たれ
now.
ている自ら
Will you
その
really
枷を
go
取
on
り
a
戻すため
journey
に
to
旅に出る
regain those shackles?
はい
Yes.
私は
I want to
黄
become
金
the
の魔女
Golden
になり
Witch.
たいんですそれが
That is the reason I was
私の生ま
born.
れてきた
彼女の煉
In
獄を巡
order
る旅が
that
快
her
適である
journey through purgatory may be a pleasant
そ
one,
して
and that she may be granted protection as
無
she
限と有
travels,
限の魔女プブリウス・ワルギリア・マロの名において要請します
I ask your assistance by the name of the endless and finite witch, Publius Virgilia Maro.
感激の魔女の巫女にして無限の魔女反言の魔女見習いエンジェ・ベアトリーチェの名において了承する者なりやと立てまつったり踏んだり蹴ったり
Let it be known that the Miko of the Witch of Theater going, and as the endless witch and apprentice witch of resurrection, I, Enge Beatrice, do accede to your request and all that stuff. Featherin snorted. Immagino Featherin lì così, tutta elegante, tutta regale, che fa da ridere.
あなたも
So,
ベアトリーチェという
your name is also Beatrice.
ええ
Yes,
あなたのことは
I
よ
know
く
a
知
lot
ってるわ
about you.
教えてください
Please teach
私
me.
が
What kind of
どん
person
な
was
私だっ
I?
たのか
え
Sure.
えだから教えて
And I'll want you to teach
あ
me
なたがどうしてあ
why
なたにな
did
った
you
のか
become the person you were.
この書庫には
In this
これまでの
archive,
そ
the
なたのゲーム
fragments
の物語の
showing the
書き名が
tales of your
すべて
games up
書物と
until
して
now
収められ
are stored as books.
それを読むこと
By
で
reading them,
そ
you
なたは
should
こ
be
れ
able
ま
to
で
learn
何があったか
everything 知
の
that
全
has
て
happened
を知る
before
ことが
now.
できるだろ
それを読めば
By reading them, can I
私は
become
黄
the
金の魔
Golden
女にな
Witch?
れますか
う黄金の魔女
To
を継承
become
す
the
るに
Golden
は
Witch, one must solve the epitaph of the gold.
そしてその真
And
は
this trial
たとえ
cannot
ベアトリ
be
ーチェ
skipped.
本人だとしても
Skipped, not even by Beatrice herself.
頑張ります
I'll do my
で
best.
すから
So please let me read the books in
読ませてくだ
this archive.
本当にけなげだわ
As worthy of admiration as ever.
わざわざあんなの
I
に
have no
なんで
idea why you
疑うの
want to go back to being like that so much.
その私が
I don't know what I was like then,
でも
but if that
その
can
自分
be
のお
of
父様
some
のお
use
役
to
に立て
father,
私はそれになり
then
たいです
is what I want to become. Angie sighed resignedly. Vabbè. As she had no words which wished to stop this girl from following her noble sense of purpose. After all, Angie was the Miko of the Witch of Theater going. She could do nothing except watch over the stage. Yes, they weren't actually interfering with the play. This was just a bit of directing to shine the spotlight onto the tale of Beato's past. Even this was nothing more than the Witch of Theater going watching a play.
読めばそなたは
If you read, you will learn what kind of person the old Beatrice was.
しかし
However, you must decide what you will take from that experience.
書庫にとどまる
You are free to stay in the archive or leave to achieve,
再び戻る
or
こと
leave
さえ
the
も
archive, or even return to the archive again
そ
later.
の対価として
In compensation,
私は
I
そ
will
なたを
watch your
感激
play.
する
感激
Watch my
とは
play?
要するに
It means you can do whatever you want.
ありがとうございます青草
Thank you very much, August.
フェザリーヌって呼ぶと
She likes
喜
it
ぶ
when you call her Featherin.
ありがとうございます
Thank you very much,
Featherin-sama.
Featherin-sama. After being welcomed in by Featherin, Beato set on a journey to discover herself. That tale connected the old tale with the new one. It wove them together. The 1,000-year tale about her eternal The 1,000-year tale about a return to its starting point, becoming a snake eating its own tail. The ring of that snake began slowly, bit by bit, to turn in the shape of a small island floating onto the sea. That island was Rockenjiman. The 1,000 years of the witch born on this island were tied to this island. What is it? Was it 1,000 years? Or just 6? Or did this tale start even further back into the past? Beatrice went on a journey to find herself. E io dico che ci fermiamo qui.